Hello, welcome to Spurs Kings TV. It is Tuesday. You know what time it is. It's time for Ashmatic Analysis. Ash, how you doing, my brother?
Yes, my broski, I'm good. I'm blessed. How are you? How's the chat? How's everyone watching at home? Good evening, good morning, good night. Yeah, man. I'm all right, man. I'm blessed, man. Let's just get on with it. Let's just get on with the show,
Bruv,
man.
it's been a good week for Spurs for once. And we just had the best week all season that we've had. But you know what? Let's get the panel out tonight. We've got a good one tonight. So first of all, I'm bringing out the regular because we love to argue, me and him. We go back and forth, right? But he's back. The chat always want to bring him back when Spurs are losing and go, "What are you talking about? Already well?"
Yeah, well, I'm good. I'm good. A lot better. Not sick. So yeah, it's going good. It's going good. And
Oh.
the last couple of days was very interesting. I was sitting there going, "Oh, for fuck's sake!"
Well,
I
to
would
be
have to come
fair,
on and defend, but
I knew you was better, right? Because I'd seen that you've been trolling people again. I know when you get back to trolling on X, I know you're feeling good and you're feeling sweet. So I thought, you know what? Gotta bring him on tonight. Gotta
yeah,
bring him
yeah.
on tonight. Next one. Haven't seen him for a while. He's been on the channel a few times, but he always sets it straight from the NSO. You lot all know him as y'all. You good?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Obviously, back here again. Been gone for a minute, but I'm just here to let everybody know. No matter what, it's always Levy Out.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. Well, I think 99% of the panel would agree.
1%.
The next one. He doesn't really do Spurs content anymore. He does a lot of Barcelona stuff, which I kind of watch because Barcelona are my Spanish team. However, I could try and get him on to do some Spurs stuff because he brings a bit of balance about it as well. And I want to have a big welcome. Chris, you good?
Evening, chaps. Nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Nice to be meeting new people, and it's, as I said, always a pleasure to be here accompanying you.
So the next one, the last guest man on the panel is making his debut on Spurs Kings TV. Me and Ash have probably been watching him for a while. I think quite a few people might know his channel. Is it Lily White Labs, I believe, as well? That's what it's called. But we know him as KP on X. But Kish, are you well? And welcome to Spurs Kings TV.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I know I've meant to been coming on, but life's been busy. But yeah, I'm buzzing to be here, and obviously I'm pretty happy with the way the transfer window ended. So yeah, it's looking bright again. Hopefully it will stay that way for a bit of time.
All right, let's get into it. Ash, I'm going to start with you. Michael Dawson last week the chairman and the club were feeling the pressure of Levy Out after the Leicester game. Michael Dawson comes out and says, you know, when the players are against the board, the players start feeling the pressure. It can cause bad results and this, that, and the other. You could read what he was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Spurs go into Thursday, go and win, convincingly by the youngsters, and then went into Sunday and won again and kept a clean sheet. So that's 2 clean sheets since Levy Out has started. Where do you sit with this? Is it having an effect on the players, or is it giving them a sense of freedom to go? Actually, they're not. It's not really us they're mad at. It's elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the comments from Romero recently, and he's been a hot topic of late because people are asking, is Romero going to be available this summer now because he's called the board out. I think the other two players are a little bit more subtle about it. Kulizeski said, we need some help, and then Son said we need some help in some cryptic type of way, but Romero just said, F it, you know what? Listen, I'm going to call a spade, and I'm going to tell it how it is. And a lot of fans respected him for it. But at the same time, some fans were like, are you looking for a way out here? Are you trying to engineer, like, is there something a bit more to this? The thing I'm looking at as well with Romero, he's actually got 3 more years on his contract, I believe.
Yeah.
And so technically the club have the power. But I'm now thinking the way things are panned out, Levy's looking at it and he's saying to himself, I don't know if I'm going to do that extension, because there was meant to be an extension coming in around these times. And the way things are looking, the results. I think Romero's a Champions League player. I mean, he's off the back of winning the World Cup. Whether people like him or not, like, you know what I'm saying? I personally think he might be looking elsewhere. Do you know what I mean? So we can have a debate. I don't know. We could swing it around. But clearly, coming back to your question, because I've kind of gone around the way, I feel like the youth, when we got that first goal and Scarlett came on,
Yeah.
I think that kind of galvanized the club, the team morale, the players within it. And obviously Ajay come on as well. He scored a goal and he linked up with Scarlett, did a little 1-2, little banged it in the back of the net, and it was a dope goal. I can't lie. When I saw that goal, I was like, wow, where has this been? Like, we've been crying out for a man to take his man on, and then this to link up and then put it in, like, bottom bins, like. So yeah, then obviously the third goal scorer was Mikey Moore, the golden boy, one of our own, and everyone was just like overjoyed. So I think that victory, that kind of spilled over into what we saw on Sunday, like energy wise. And I think internally, like when things are against you, I think sometimes that can bring players together even more. So yeah, of course, we know what my man's doing. We know what Dawson's on. Obviously, he's working for the club, and he's just talking, as I wouldn't say a job's worth, but you know what I mean. I
Look,
don't want to
look.
disrespect Dawes like that, but it is what it is, man. His hands are tired and he's doing his job. And I'll leave it at that. I'll let the rest of the panel talk now. Go on.
Yeah, I'll bring you in. Obviously you saw Thursday, and obviously we had to allow the youngsters, and then we obviously got to Sunday, and it kind of spilled over. First, what did you make of Thursday, and then what did you then feel about going into Sunday after seeing the youngsters actually get us out of jail?
I wouldn't say so much that the youngsters got us out of jail. Ellsborg, I don't think had the energy or played enough games to really give us a worry. Even if they had taken the lead, honestly, I think they would have just like capitulated towards the end of the game as they did. And it was surprising because obviously it was one of those games in which Son was actually taking on his fullback because he clearly forgot how to do that for the majority of the season.
I did not know you were going to bring that up.
Because my problems with Son are personal, so it is what it is. But in terms of the performance, I think obviously it was a good barometer. It was a good thing for the kids or for the young lot because they came in, they showed no fear. That second goal was absolutely quality. Mikey Moore's goal was quality. Even Dane Scarlett's goal was quality because he's timed his jump well and put it in the back of the net, and obviously it's trickled in over to Sunday's result. But I'll be honest with you, that Thursday result was more. I have to ask myself, especially as a fan, like, do some of these players have shame? Because there's been enough games this season where game management is key to getting a result, and a lot of the senior players have not shown that they have game management or an understanding of game management. Now I know some people will turn around and say, "Oh, but Ange, it's the tactics and stuff like that." And to a degree, I can understand that. But when you cross the white line, you can see the ball. Like you're playing on the pitch, whatever the people on the sidelines can see, you are facing the play 9 times out of 10. Look, I think Ange got it wrong in terms of like his Europa League selection. Me personally, and I said it at the beginning of the season, Spence should have been taken so that at least there was rotation or chance for rotation with Porro. But we got the win, and that's pretty much what it looked like.
Chris, I come across to you. What after seeing the youngsters go out on Thursday, and as you all said on there, like, is it the players? Are they the ones who, when they cross the white line, do we not see enough leaders on that pitch at the moment, or does Ange need to look at his squad and go, look, I know I ain't got no leaders. Do I need to change something? Because the reason why I'm saying that is because on Sunday there was a significant change in the way we played.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated times to be a Spurs fan. Injuries, club, Levy out. It's not just now. It's been years, right? But I think that you do lack a leader. I mean, from my perspective, I need to see like a Puyol. I need to see Sergio Ramos. I need to see you know what I mean, Maldini. And we've got Son as our captain. And I'm not judging Son because I'm not privy to what goes on behind doors. But he wouldn't be your first choice kind of captain from like on the sidelines point of view, like looking and thinking, he's just such a nice guy. What has he got to offer when you need a rollicking? You know what I mean? But then again, if he's been chosen and the others are not available, well then, I mean, you've got what you've got. It was a complicated game.
Yeah, sorry, Chris. I was just on that. Just wanted to quickly. But some people would say
Sure,
with
sure.
Son, he's got a whole country that he kind of has a lot of pressure on his shoulders when it comes to South Korea, and he has delivered.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
why could he not deliver at Spurs? Why is there such a big difference?
No, I'm not saying he can't. What I'm saying is that
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of channels when he was named captain. I've seen a lot of Twitter. Or the artisan, big up to you, man. And it's like Sonny, he's this, he's that, he's bland, he's a nice guy, he's smiley, he's this. As I said, I'm not behind closed doors. I do not know what he offers, right? But obviously, as you said, he's captain of South Korea. He does the business there. He's got a whole country behind him, as you say, and a lot of Asia as well. I suppose that they respect him, regardless of whether he's South Korean or not. And he's a legend of the club, as far as I'm concerned, and he deserves respect. What I'm saying is, from my point of view, would you choose him over someone that does something different? Now, my perspective is my perspective. We know from England, whenever Beckham was captain, he wasn't the one rollicking everybody. He was the one that was showing how to behave, and others were the ones that were shouting and doing all the dirty work, so to speak. Sonny could be like that as well. In Spurs, you could have Sonny as the captain that goes, off behaviour, and respect and his legacy and the years he's been at the club. And then you could have like Romero, who would be, the rollicker, or do you know what I mean? This kind of idea. But I think that going back to Thursday, for example, it was a tough game. I mean, the pressure is there. You're against with all due respect, a smaller team, but they created difficulties because they closed all the passing lanes, right? So then you go to Brentford, and that was 0 points because everybody was knocking us off. I mean, 0 points totally. And we turned on the heat. We turned it up. We played because, in part as well, you've got a rival that didn't low block. We know that Brentford last season, they low block you, and then they go on the attack, right? Now they don't have tone anymore, which is their reference. Like it was last year, there was a reference, so they could play a different way. They don't have Tony anymore. They got Wisa, who's different kind of guy. But that opened the game up for us, and we took our chances, and we did brilliantly. So we're on a bullish kind of ascending line. Let's see what happens against Liverpool. I mean, that's my take. I probably haven't answered your question, but I know I've been speaking for about 7 minutes. So,
Kish, I'm going to bring you in, right? Because I don't like to Orange, so I'm going to bring you in first. But let's like Thursday. What? Obviously, we were up against a low block team on Thursday, right? And then we obviously went against, and as Chris said, a team that were going to come out against us, and we probably saw two different sides of football. What did the youngsters bring to make us get over that line compared to what happened on Sunday when we, to be fair, I'm going to say it, I think we sat more in a low block than we usually do, than what we've seen in the last few months under Ange.
Yeah, I think there's not much to take from Thursday's game in terms of takeaways, apart from the fact that it was good for confidence, good for momentum. The quality of opposition is obviously nowhere near what we should be playing against and what we're aspiring to be playing against. I think one thing we did see is the youngsters didn't have that weight on their shoulders, and I think sometimes that's the kind of positives you get with young players is they don't carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, especially when we're in this bad rut. I think in terms of that game, again, Son Son was pretty good. I would like to see him do that more, and I think the level of right back he was playing against is part of the reason he was so confident to take him on. I think he struggled to kind of create any real separation a lot this season when he's going as fullback. I think a lot of the time he gets the ball stuck under his feet, and he can't. He's still got that like elite ball striking ability, whether it's cutting in and shooting or going down the line and whipping across in. The issue is he can't get into those positions anymore, or as consistently anyway. And I think that's something Ange needs to figure out how to get him in those positions as much as possible where he can affect the game, rather than him trying to create those opportunities himself where he doesn't really have those abilities anymore. In terms of the Brentford game, I think, to be honest, I think we've been in a more reserved kind of block for maybe 3 weeks. I think it's not a long-term solution. I think our players are absolutely knackered,
Yeah.
and to go out and press is just negligence. So I think sitting in a more reserved block is the only real option. The issue is we're not coached in that way. All the ideas that Ange has fed to the club since he came in are sort of front foot, aggressive, attacking football, and we're not set up to defend our box for 90 minutes, and that's why we'll sit in a block and we'll also look pretty open, because we're not coached in that way. We haven't had much coaching in that sense. I think Sunday was a resolute performance though, and again, I didn't take too much from it apart from the fact it's momentum. I don't think we were amazing, but it's 3 points, and that's all that matters at this point.
Oren, talk to me. Go on. Because we were all having a go at you last week, and you were there going, no, don't worry.
No.
I'll let you shine. I'll let you shine for a couple of minutes before I tear you apart. Go on.
Yeah. Oh, let's keep the positive. Yeah, what's the question?
So Thursday, what did you make of Thursday with the youngsters coming on and then obviously having a massive impact? Well, not a big impact of scoring the goals, but as everyone has said, it was a low quality opposition. It was literally they were defending like their 10 low block, and we eventually broke them down.
Yeah. You could say Hoffenheim is a low position, but we're all Spurs fans. We've all seen Spurs lose to teams lower than Hoffenheim. And it was a pressure, because if Spurs had won or drew, they would have qualified, but if they won, they got fourth place. So they had expectations. And again, we've all been there. We've all seen it, where we expect Spurs to blow away a team and they lose 1-0. So for me, like, it was really a weird game, because the biggest change actually happened when Roddy Dragusin went off and Star went to right back or left back.
Yeah. Yes.
It was weird. It was like, right, another flipping injury brings on the young players. Dan Scarlett comes on, and then something just happened. And when I watched it, I thought, right, those three players embodied what Angie's trying to do: play with no fear, attack, get forward. And it was really good to see that the three players who scored all play in the same system. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but when Angie signed last season, didn't he say that he was going to implement the same system in the academy, like under 21s? And that's what you saw. They linked up with each other. I mean, well, apart from Mikey Moore, who was like, fuck this, I'm going to score. I don't need anybody's help. So these guys are 17, 19, and yeah, both two 19-year-olds. And like, yeah, it was just kind of like, I've been admiring this team ever since the injury. Like, I've been on the stream and I've always said, because they've had fans saying Levy Out, criticize the manager, everything else, but they've kept going. And look where they are now. And then against Brentford, I was thinking, right, whatever happens, happens. Archie Gray, and then Ben Davies is the centre back. Let's see what happens. Spurs.
Can I ask a question off the back of this whole youth kind of discussion that we're having? Like,
Yeah.
Does anyone think that Ange he kind of stumbled on the youth? Like, the plan wasn't really to play Archie Gray as much as he did
True.
if the
Yeah.
injuries weren't there, and actually Bergvall was only going to be used sparingly. Like, for example, Europa, maybe I don't know, we haven't had seen
Yeah.
FA Cup yet. League Cup here and there, do you know what I mean? And then looking back at the actual game against Elfsborg, I think it was a situation where obviously Richarlison didn't look fit and he had to come off. And so he used Scarlett.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, by having Scarlett up top, putting Kulusevski in the 10, all of a sudden it kind of worked. It kind
Yeah.
of worked in that favour. And then we went 1-0 up. And then obviously he brought Ajay on. I didn't think he expected him to do anything. And then all of a sudden, it come off. And then obviously 2-0 up, Mikey Moore saw what was going on, said, I want a piece of this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the reason why I throw this out there, because I'm like, are we going to see Ajay again? How often do we expect to see Scarlett utilized in this squad now that we've got another striker in? Do you see what I'm trying to say? Do
Yeah.
you believe the hype of the youth, or is it a circumstance situation that we're in at the moment?
It's obviously circumstance. Though before this all happened, a lot of fans were saying, "What was the point of buying Lucas Birdville and Archie Gray if you're not going to play them?" Because they weren't being played enough, even though they were being playing in the Europa League. So these players have been like brought forward even more in experience. They've got tons of experience, all sorts of experience, and I do think that yes, these players have came on and showed we're ready. Not to play every Premiership game, but we're ready to help the team. And what I like about all the three youngsters he scored when they got interviewed, it was like there was no yeah. It was like nope, we're going to get back to hard work, get back to training, and we'll take our opportunities when it arrives. That's it's really interesting seeing that maturity. Even like Mikey Moore, he was 17 years old. Listen to him speak. It was like listen to 27-year-old speak. And it's I think like yes, the injuries have played a massive part, but what it shows that these guys have stepped up and said, right, we're playing for this club. We represent Spurs. We're not going to shut up. We're not going to be like kind of like, oh, we're afraid to make a mistake because the fans might criticize us. They're like, fuck it, we're just going to go for it and ignore all the outside noise and just focus on what we believe in. And yeah, that's what I was thinking. And I do think that by the end of February, you'll be seeing a completely different Spurs team.
Cool. Anyone else? Just on the back of that.
Yeah,
I don't think that the
Go on, you
I
go.
don't think that the youngsters. I think Archie Gray and Bergvall got a bit of a hard shout in terms of fans saying they're not getting used enough. I think they're getting a good amount of minutes from the cup games, and they were coming off the bench a lot in the league. But obviously, we've had to use them more in recent months than probably was first thought or first needed. In terms of Dane Scarlett, I mean, thanks for the goal. We appreciate it, but you still got some work experience to be doing. So I don't expect him to be demanding a starting spot or extra minutes, especially now that we've made some signings. In the Europa League, when players are a bit tired, then you can bring on Dane Scarlett. Maybe even in the league, a couple minutes here and there. Um, in terms of the young kid, I think is a Joy. Um, that was a great debut. Listen, great, fantastic. But again, it's just a case of like maybe giving him a few minutes here, a few minutes there. If we're well in the lead in the game, then fine, bring him on. But I don't think they need to be thrown in. Whereas Gray and Bergvall have had and have completed enough minutes where you could really genuinely say they're first team players can move forward to the next season in basically a similar type of role where they're either starting or coming off the bench. But we've got a decent future. Maybe Ange did stumble across this, but I guess that was the plan from last year. It's just a case of making sure that he doesn't run these kids into the ground.
Go on, KP.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think like this is a problem in football across England. I don't think it's like a Ange problem. I think loads of managers don't trust young players until they need to and they're forced to, and that's how many of these players get their breaks. If you look at, like even the likes of Cole Palmer was struggling to get minutes at City. And there's so much quality, especially nowadays in English academies, that it often takes like injuries or whatever to actually get them a shot. It's funny because I don't even think Dane Scarlett or Amola Ajay are the top rated talents in the academy right now. I don't think they're especially rated. I think there's much higher level talents. It shows the increase in quality that the club has made in the academy. I think the level's extremely high right now, but I think Thursday just showed how and the injection of just a bit of intensity, a bit of energy was a big difference. And I don't think that's necessarily a slight on the first team players. I think they're just absolutely knackered, and the young players were showing them up because of that intensity.
So let's go on, Chris.
No, briefly, I think that the win against Elfsborg, although it was a lesser team, with all due respect, the young guns did a very, very good job. No one expected it. Now there was a lot of criticism that Ange didn't use the youth. And Mikey Moore's brilliant. He should be playing more. Werner's this, Sonny's that. Now I think that we should be very cautious to get caught up in the hype now that they've done it. Right now that they've done it against a proper professional team, all three of them scored. Now that are fans going to jump on that bandwagon? Are they going to say, right, now they've proved it, now they deserve to play more, right? Or are fans going to be cautious and say, right, it was a one-off, let's still give them time, let's still respect the professionals that are working at the club with them day in, day out on the training pitch. They are the ones privy to all the information. They're the ones that can see the progression or the lack of progression that the youth have, which is why they play or why they don't. Now, of course, as Yoel was saying, it's basically happenstance, isn't it? It's a coincidence because of all the injuries that we've had. We've had no other choice. So I just want, to throw a bit of caution into the wind with the youth, because it's not as easy, said and done. If they were that good or better than, they would have been playing already. Okay, and obviously under the criteria of the professionals that are on that are there, running the football side of things. So just a bit of caution.
So let's get into Sunday, because obviously there was a massive change of game plan, and Ange was asked the question a lot in the press conferences. We didn't see Ange, but we actually saw something different. Jay, welcome. I'm going to start with you, right? Because you've been miserable for the last few months, and I want Jay back. I want Jay back.
I'm never miserable. Like, listen, like you guys are miserable. I'm always adjacent to miserable. At worst, at worst, that's how I do it. How is everybody? Hope everyone's well.
Jay, I've been saying to Ash, I want Jay back. I miss him.
I'm back. Listen. I fluctuated. I said if we lose to Leicester, I'll pack his bags. I packed his bags. I didn't tell him to leave. I just gave him the cold shoulder for a moment. So back in the room, ready to get hurt again.
All right, talk to me about Sunday, Jay, because obviously it was slightly different. KP said earlier it was a case of, because these players are tired and knackered now, he's had to change something. You can see over the last few weeks he has changed the game plan. It's not all gung-ho and making them, where they get knackered after 60 minutes and then we're conceding goals. So what are we starting to now see in these next couple of weeks that Ange does have basically a plan B that everyone said he didn't have?
So, obviously the game, for me, the game was an interesting game because how we set up was, in as much as it wasn't even we should have been playing like this all season. I've always said that the team doesn't fear conceding goals. It's one of my biggest issues with the team. They're not scared about conceding. They lack a fear that the best teams have. They really don't. So at the weekend, I saw that we really, really, really do not want to concede a goal. Yeah, and I think that's always a great basis. Forgetting all the tactical stuff, it's just the players endeavored to not concede a goal. I will say that obviously, as is horrible about Dragusin, but I genuinely don't think we win that game if Dragusin played at the weekend. I genuinely don't, because there was times that Brentford had a press on us, and it was only Archie Gray's technical ability that was helping him play out of that press, finding certain passes. Even the goal, the second goal, was because of his, pass, weight of pass, things like that. And I think Ange, from a tactical point of view, he made adjustments. I think the players would appreciate it, because it's very difficult to be high intensity out of possession and high intensity in possession. Like, it just kills players. So I feel like the players appreciated slightly, not being as intense out of possession. It allowed them to attack with a little bit of, speed. But again, it wasn't the finest performance. But I think from a tactical point of view, um, slowing the game down, looking for passes, trying to play down the flanks, come back. We had a decent amount of possession, but also being willing to play out of possession. Defend deep, mid low block, try and counter. It wasn't pretty. I think on another day, sometimes maybe one of those chances Brentford has goes in. Difficult, because if you look at XG and stuff on the balance of the game, you could make the argument of, like, we're happy because we won. Like, the underlyings were, probably as worse underlying metrics as we've had all season. I'm gonna put the points in the bag and run, and I'm not gonna overanalyze this. But this is the problem about when you start to talk about stuff. There's stuff that is like a therapist. I'm unpacking stuff that I didn't even know I was thinking about the game. Like, I'm saying it, and I'm like, shit. Actually, this wasn't as good as I thought as I'm saying these words. So yeah, back to you guys.
Yo, I want to quickly bring you in, and because look, I know you've been critical of Ben Davies in the past. However, you can see clearly we are a better team defensively. It's more with him in the team than Dragusin. I think a lot of people have kind of said this, and Ben Davies has been getting a lot of props this season in the games that we've played in, and we have one where he's been at the back. Do you still stand by he's been here too long, or do you think for what he is, you get what you get?
I still stand by the fact that he's been here for too long. He's like old furniture. Sometimes you need to switch it up. But he has been far better than Dragusin in the back. In fact, I said on a recent pod that he's been a model professional. But these are the years now in which he's got to do what I like to call the mentorship years. He's got to, like, come into Hotspur way, sit the youngsters down and say, look, these are the stuff that I did wrong in my career. Don't copy it. These are the stuff that I did right. Copy that. That he needs to be doing. I'd also like to add, I know a lot of Spurs fans don't want to hear this. They're probably going to be upset when I say this, but I'm not going to lie to you. I think Son is also part of that mentorship program. I found out recently after watching his documentary that his father doesn't respect him. And well, I've told many people before, if your father doesn't respect you, you're going down a slippery slope. It's not a nice road, and Son is looking like that. So right now, for me, I don't necessarily agree with Jay. I know what Jay is saying in terms of the performance we gave against Brentford, but that's football. That's sports. It's not going to be great every single game. The whole remit is that you get to that 90 minutes and you win your match, or you do your best to win your match. Doesn't really matter how it looks. On the balance of play, yes, Brentford could have probably got a win or got a draw if they've been better with their chances. But at the same time, some of the chances we created and defended, I couldn't fault us from getting a win. If Brentford had walked away with that 2-0 victory on Sunday, people would be like, they deserved it. Performing like us, I'm saying. Yeah, they would say deserved it. Even against Leicester, there was fans that are like, oh, they deserved it because, we are just absolutely rubbish. And I'm like, okay, fine. If that's the way you want to look at it, such is life. But what I will say is, all the tactical changes that Ange made, there's one that has irked me for the last 2 months, and he still hasn't made this change, and he's never going to make this change. And until he makes this change, we are going to be in very big problems. His name is Pedro Porro, P for piss tape. because this guy does not check his mirrors. Never has checked his mirrors. Every time he puts the key in his front door, he never checks behind him to see if he's about to get jacked. And that's why he's been robbed every single day of his life. This is nonsense. We have a right back that does not know how to defend, never looks over. The first game in his entire season where I've seen him defend was Sunday just gone. You mean to tell me it took you 30 plus games to realize that there's players behind you just marauding into our box every single week? So until Ange realizes that Spence has proved himself, move him to his rightful position at right back. Me personally, I know people don't want to hear it, but I'll play regularly on, even though he's a Jaff. I'll still play him because that gives you a more natural balance than having to pray to God Almighty that people do not take advantage of Pedro Porro deciding to go to the co-op every single 20 minutes. And that's my take.
Chris, I'll bring you in on that. What your mix of. I think a lot of people have always said this. Like Pedro Porro is, when it comes defensively, he's very, very poor. And Sunday was probably the first time in a while that we go, actually defensively weren't bad, but usually his biggest threat is going forward. But again, on Sunday we didn't see that because he was actually quite good defensively. What do you make of this whole? Because obviously Spence got man of the match, and everyone is sort of raving about Spence as the weeks go on that actually he should be playing right back. And I'm kind of with your on this, where I've said just use Reguilon. He's a Spanish international. He's not as bad as people make out. And when he came on against Leicester, I believe, he gave us that balance, which sometimes you kind of need when you are playing a right back at left back. Because be fair to Spence, he's always coming back inside, and sometimes it can be a danger and a hindrance, like we saw against the second goal against Arsenal, where he has to come back inside, play it to Basuma, puts us under pressure, and they go on and score.
Yeah, Pedro Porro is a weird one because in Spain he plays as right wing back, and he went to Sporting Lisbon as a right wing back. So we're looking at the same kind of problems as with Emerson Royal, our lovely legend of 6 million games and 5,000 goals with Spurs. Emerson Royal, who played in Brazil very well and went to Betis and played as a right wing back very well under Pellegrini, and then he went to Barcelona briefly because he was part owned Barcelona, part Betis. Played in a back four, was useless, and then got sold to Spurs, which for me was extremely an anxious time because I didn't really see him playing as a right back. So with Pedro Porro, we've got a right wing back that's playing as a right back that can't defend, but is very good, or half decent, going forward, and he can pass and he can, long range shots. I think that the Spence issue is very kind of like ongoing because there was a lot of criticism. Why was he left out? What's going on with him? He got signed, how many 2 seasons ago, didn't find his place, still didn't find his place last season with Ange. Attitude problems or suspected attitude problems, whatever. But now he's kind of like, seen the light, so to speak. So I could make a case for Spence actually taking Porro's place, because he's a better defender. The problem is going forward, although he has scored a goal. I think he scored a goal against Coventry, which, made his stock rise, a couple of grand or whatever it was. But I think that we've got a problem. I think we need, if Spence is going to stay at Spurs, I think Porro needs to leave because of the defence. And if Ange still sticks with us next season, the same things are going to happen. Behind you is the problem. And that's what you were saying. Every time he puts the keys in the door, he doesn't know if he's going to get, jacked or not. And this is a huge problem because when the ball is swung in from the right wing, your most vulnerable position is your right back, right? It's the opposite side, and he is absolutely gash at defending because he's small. He's great. I mean, size doesn't really matter in that sense because right backs don't have to be 6'8", but it is a problem. It is a problem for him, and it's been a problem since pre-season. Last year when we played against I don't know whoever it was in Australia or Japan or wherever we went. So and the same issues are recurring. It is a problem. Going forward, he's good. Going back, he's not. So what do you do? So Spence is a good option. I mean, Porro, sell him, make good money off him, and look for a backup for Spence, or a first starter that's better, that's more balanced. It's a complicated one, you know. It's because he is a Spanish international as well, so he does deserve respect. But is he good enough for what we want to do? Question.
KP, I just quickly want to bring you in on it because obviously I know I know you look at a lot of tactics with Spurs and stuff. So I wanted to bring you on the whole Spence, Porro, and Reguilon situation. Obviously, you break down exactly where their positions are and what they're supposed to be doing. What would you do in this situation? Would you put Reguilon at left back, or would you keep Spence where he is and keep Porro on the right, or would you have him less inverting in that style, or would you just go, nah, Spence needs to be right back and just put Reguilon left?
I think Porro's form is a byproduct of the amount of minutes he's played. He's played. I think him and Kulusevski has played combined the most amount of minutes of anyone in the squad. Porro was not this bad last year. He wasn't. But he has been. His form has been terrible, and that's not just defensively. That's on the ball as well. Some of the decisions he's making, his wastefulness. He's one of the most technically gifted players in the squad, but some of his decisions that he makes means that he's not able to utilize that ability. And I think people often look at fatigue and tiredness in a physical aspect, but mental fatigue is a big thing as well. And I think the longer games go on, the higher intensity of games, the higher stakes are. I think those kind of mental errors can happen. Porro at his best, he's a great player. I think he has clear weaknesses, and those weaknesses should be recognised. And both him and Spence should be used accordingly in terms of opposition. I think when there's a sort of left winger who's a fantastic dribbler, a real goal threat, whatever. If there's a troublesome left winger, then it should be Spence. And when there's kind of more of us having the ball and us trying to break down low blocks, it should be Porro. And I think that's a pretty simple solution. The issue is we don't have a backup left back to Doggy, and I've been saying for ages that we needed another left back. And I think one thing this season's taught us is we need two players for every position pretty much because of the intensity of the way we play. And that comes back to the ownership and transfers, of course. But yeah, I think Porro is playing a lot below his level. I think we'll miss him in certain games if he's not playing because of we lack, especially if Romero's not playing, passing from deep. Spence is brilliant, but it's more of a carrying, dribbling ability, and then obviously his defensive ability. Especially when we're playing stubborn defensive teams, we need players from deep to be able to unlock pockets and switch the play and keep moving the opposition basically. So yeah, I think he still has a role to play, but him and Spence should be on sort of par and rotated dependent on position.
Orin, I would quickly bring you in on the Porro debate and Spence. Where do you sit on it? Where would you, if everyone was fit, who would you be picking as your right back in this current system?
Rotation. It's that simple. Just rotate, because yes, I do believe agree with Cash here. Like Pero has been making bad decisions, but I do think that's fatigue because it's later on the games. And he has been played over and over again. And we all know why. I'm not going to go into it. Kulusevski's also, his form is kind of dipped, but it can be forgiven because it's the same thing. But, it's hard to say that Pedro Porro is a bad defender because he's played in 2 games that he's kept a clean sheet. So, not him personally, but Spurs have kept a clean sheet. And I do think what helps as well is, talking about the Brentford game, what helped was the experience. I think that has been missing because he started Bentancur and Bissouma, didn't he? And then Davies. And so basically that had the experience. And I think when Romero was with Pedro, he can talk to him. Or Pero, he can talk to him. And I think But the debate is, the question you asked me, I would rotate them. If I had to be pushed to say, right, there has to be one, I would actually have to pick Perro because of his passing range and the fact that he can whip crosses in. But though, if you were to ask me who would I pick between Destiny Udogie and Spence, I'd pick Spence all the time. Because, yes,
So
Spence
you say you basically see Destiny Doggy as the issue instead of actually
No,
slating
not so
Porro?
much an issue. I'm just like, because I would understand the consequences of having Spence as a right-footed player playing left back if he was having to overlap and make crosses. But if you look at the Angie system, they're inverted, so he can still play, with his right foot. He doesn't have to cross balls in. And if you look at Spence's passing, he's adapted. Like he'll stand and like the Solanke goal against United, that was his right foot. He just stood, whipped the ball in, and he's very good at doing that. So I think if all is fit, I think even if Destiny Udogie was fit, I would say Spence should start ahead of him. Spence is just more disciplined than Udogie, and he's more creative. He knows when to attack. He knows when to sit back, and he's no right. I'm not going to try and burst forward. I'm going to make a pass. Look at the situation. If I can attack, I'll get forward. But if I can't, I'll drop deep. And that's maturity. I think Destiny Udogie, he's still young and he lacks that discipline and maturity. He always if you think about him being out, it Spurs that side don't look as gung ho. You know what I mean? It's like because he was passing and just going right. I'm going to get forward all the time, and it's like right. Sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you don't. Read the game. Like you're a player in the pitch. Read the game when to do and when not to do that. So yeah, I think Perro is like he should start because of what he offers, and I think Spence should start. But like I said, if I had to pick one of the two, I would pick Perro because of his passing ability. And once he's less mentally drained, I think he's a good defender as well. So yeah, I pick him.
Can I ask a question to the panel? Because we're talking about players being mentally drained. We've lost 13 games in the season. So at what point during the season did Pedro Porro become mentally drained?
Yeah, but the team lost, not Pedro Porro. Pedro Porro wasn't playing by himself.
Yeah, but I'm saying at what point, because the majority of teams that we face
Yeah.
attack us down Pedro Porro's side, or they look to clip balls over to his side. So at what point
Yes.
we become so badly mentally drained that we just kept losing games upon games upon
Well,
games?
My mentally drained point was not him defensively. My mentally drained point was some of the decisions he's making on the ball. I think
Okay.
he's been overplayed regardless. Ange didn't integrate Spence in soon enough. Him and Udogie were playing way too many minutes. Gray played a couple games at right back, which I think was a downgrade, and we saw Gray wasn't massively suited to that. I think Porro has his weakness. I think physically, at the back post, he can get dominated in terms of aerially. At times, he can get caught in between the covering round his centre back or going and sticking with his wide player. But one-on-one defending, he's gone up a level since he joined for sure. I don't think he's a great defender. I don't think he's a terrible defender. I think he's pretty average there. But I think he brings qualities on the ball. Is the main
Okay.
reason.
Can I?
My problem with Porro is what you get defensively from him. What you get offensively from him is not enough to negate the defensive issues.
I 100% agree.
It's nowhere near enough. So I
point.
can't sit here as a Spurs fan and say, "Oh, I'm willing to take the risk week in, week out," which we've had to do this season, week in, week out, for the offensive ability when it's not a week in, week out. It's not
Yeah.
every single week you're sitting there thinking, "Yeah, Porro, he just delivered a great cross. Oh, that's a great ball. He's creating chances." You're not thinking that. You might think that about Trent, but you're definitely not thinking that about Porro. It'll be
I agree.
one every 2 games if you're lucky.
but Trent Alexander's been criticised for his defence.
Yeah, but
And
his
he's been caught
defensive
off.
ability is so damn high,
Yes,
like,
but
ridiculously.
you're judging it based from the person level. Like Perot is a good defender and he's a good attacker, and it's like basically if you're the way I look at it, like you can accuse one player of conceding goals, and yes, he is often targeted, but to me it's like if I'm a defender and I know this, I'm going to speak to my right back all the time. I'm going to say watch that player. You have to remember as well that Romero has been cause for conceding goals as well.
Yeah,
this
he
season.
cost us 4 games this season.
Yeah. So basically, it's like what has happened, and I'm not saying Pero's a fantastic world-class defender. I'm just saying, like, as a back four as a whole, I don't think that the leaders like Romero has really stepped up to then guide Pero, because he's meant to be the one who, shouts or scream, or even what do you call him? Or if Kulu plays on the wing or Johnson plays, they're meant to also help Pero double up, because Pero's getting double up. So basically, he's meant to have help. And if a ball's getting crossed from the other side and Pero's like focusing the ball to header it, then it's up to Johnson to go and go, right, that he can't see that player, so I'm going to go around and help him out. It's a team effort when it comes to defense as well as
I don't
Part of
think
this is
on
interesting.
those balls that get crossed in. Now, I'm speaking from a sporting. Maybe you've played a few games, but I'm speaking from just watching it. Kind of the biggest, the high level professionals. It's not about doubling up. You literally watch him in games against Leicester City early in the season. He's literally running back, watching the ball as the player's about to cross. He doesn't look left once to see Vardy literally just coasting behind him. He doesn't
yeah,
look
but then the ball is at the goal where Vardy scores and Romero just lets Vardy runs
Yeah,
past him.
Romero is to blame at the end of the play, but all of the madness started from Poro. Not what It's a simple thing. Like if you stop one issue, you can stop other
Yes,
issues.
but
Now,
if
yes,
he's watching it,
Romero can be blamed for definitely the Leicester game, even the Newcastle game where he ran out and done his nonsense because he decided he wanted to go flip
yeah,
into the high road and get something from Chiking. Nobody knows why he did that, but this is what he wanted to do.
he's
But when it comes to Poro, the fact of the matter, you can literally go and watch all our defeats, and you could pick multiple moments where he switched off here. He hasn't watched this here. He hasn't watched it. And this is where my problem is. I know people say he's a right wing back. Fine. I get that. If you play wing back as left or right hand side, you have to be a decent defender and a decent attacker. That's what makes a very good wing back. If you're fullback, your number one priority is, because you're part of the defensive line, is to be decent or good at defending first. Anything after that, if you're decent attacking wise, that's a bonus. If you're not great attacking wise, at least you can offer something on the defensive end. We've got a right back that gets targeted week in, week out. We
yeah,
concede goals week in, week out. On our left hand side, as much as Destiny might not be the greatest going forward,
he was targeted too.
I can trust him more in the defensive action than I can Poro.
But Destiny Udogie against
I will
Brighton,
never
he,
deny.
he miskicked the ball and it led to a goal. And he's been caught out of position many times.
He miskicked the ball. He's been caught out of position. He's got back into position. He's made tackles. Poro's been caught
And
out
then
of
against
position.
Tottenham
And
Forest,
the next thing you
if
know,
you
it's
watch
in the back
if
of
you
our
watch
net.
the goal against Tottenham Forest, he's actually covering the goal scorer, and then he just slows down, tries to place him offside, and then just like keeps on looking over.
You could find 10 clips of Poro doing the exact same thing, and it
No,
led to.
Pero's never really done that. Destiny
Ah,
Udogie has.
yeah,
That's
he's
the thing.
definitely done
No,
that in the last 2
I,
seasons.
I'm not saying you can't criticize, but if you're going to criticize players who have done the same thing or who has also led to
They
goals.
haven't done it to the level that Poro's done.
It's like
It's
why
like
why
five,
why do
five
you
for
take
every
it
time that
personal? Like
if every time Destiny's done
why are you
something,
looking at
Poro's done
Peru
it 5 times.
personal? It's like if you don't like him personally, that's fine. But
No, I don't know him
it's
personally.
but the way you're saying Pedro Porro, you're saying Pedro Porro done this, he's not this, and I'm saying Destiny Udogie has done the same thing.
Yeah,
If
and
like Destiny
I
Udogie
said he's done
has,
the same thing,
Can I
but
can I
so
let's
add
why
not
are you
forget
not criticizing him? So why are you
part
not criticizing
part
Destiny
Poro is
Udogie?
our right hand side,
Yeah,
and that's
go on,
what
Kish. Go on. I want to hear
part
Kish. Go on.
Yeah, go on, Kish.
part of this is a system issue, right? Ange likes to keep his wingers high, to gamble that when we get the ball, we can directly play to the wingers at all times, and they're high and wide, and they can be a threat from there, right? Therefore, if Poro say the ball's on our left side, right? All the back four moves across, yeah. So you have Udogie pressing the player with the ball, for example. Left centre back moves across, right centre back moves across, right back moves across. You can't leave gaps. You have to be together, right? You move across.
Mhm.
Therefore, often there will be a player behind Poro, and that's natural football. That happens in every game of football at every level. There's always going to be a spare man on the complete other side of the pitch, because once it goes across, everyone shifts across, and that's football, right? Often it will be the winger's job to at least stand halfway between the fullback and the winger. Therefore, if there is danger coming, he can cover, or Porro can, or he can speak to Porro. Porro can go out there or whatever. I think one of the issues we have is we leave Porro so isolated, and that's one of the gambles of the system. I think sometimes, especially when we're getting dominated so much at the moment, that gamble doesn't pay off. When Ange ball is flowing in great effect, it pays off because the amount of turnovers and the amount of quick attacks we get from it is useful. But right now we're tired. Those attacks aren't efficient. They're not intense in the same way. So often that gamble is not paying off. And I think that's what's changed a little bit of recent weeks is that he's asking his wingers to come back and defend deeper. And we've seen Porro be less isolated at that back post. I think Porro could do a much better job of checking his shoulders and speaking and saying to his winger or saying to Romero, no, you stick on this, man. I'm going to get the winger as it's coming over or whatever it is. But part of it is a system issue.
I
Oh,
agree
this
on
guy
this.
Del Boy has just said Ange plays inverted fullbacks. They're going to beat LOL. It's that simple. So, does anyone want to step in and speak upon the whole inverted fullback situation? Because I think the question is, does Ange adapt? And Marlon started off, and he said that actually Ange did adapt against Brentford. We're playing more of a mid to low block. But then I think Kish was saying no, actually, it's because the players are a bit more fatigued, a bit more tired, and were forced to play in that. And actually, Ange came out in a press conference and he was asked, and Jay, you can come in if you want,
Yeah.
or Chris, or whoever.
I was gonna say, like, it depends. It depends on what exactly you're looking for. Like, out of possession, in possession. Like, I appreciate the point about Poro. I think sometimes there's build up issues as well. How we build up as a team. We're talking about Poro inverting versus. I think Poro plays quite a flexible role now. So it's very difficult for me to say he doesn't invert or he does invert. I almost see the limitations of Poro's new style more than I see the benefits to an extent. So I'll see him infield when I think, oh, we could do with some width here, and I'll see him, hugging the touchline when I think, okay, we could overload them in the middle here. So I think getting that balance is more difficult with, say, like a Bergval, because he's less. He's got a high football IQ, but his in-game experience is quite low. So that has a domino effect on everybody else's positioning. But um, in terms of Ange and like him adapting and changing tactics and things like that, I think I've always had issues with it out of possession play. Like I just don't think it, to me, it just doesn't feel like it's something that we work on that much. And I might be wrong. Somebody might, be able to get, but for me, that is just as much of an issue when we're looking at our tactics, and because it's almost like how we set up as a team out of possession, how we deal with threat. Even against Brentford, it wasn't great, but then that affects Porro, where Porro stands, and you add Spence has a high football IQ. Yeah, like Spence knows what time it is and senses danger and knows his body's like limitations and springiness, and see how many times Spence dives into a tackle, but he gets the ball. He's got that. He's kind of got that Wan-Bissaka about him in terms of like the
Wait,
legs kind of
can I pause you on
over
that real
gadget
quick, Jay? Sorry to interrupt you, and you're in mid flow. I apologize, but I
legs.
want to probe on that question a bit more. Is it the responsibility? Because I know me and Orange, we spoke about this a lot, but is it the responsibility of the players to have the IQ and to be like, yeah, are they responsible for defending off the ball, working it out themselves, or should it be more of a systems thing where they need to be man to man better or zonally better? Like, which way do you swing on it?
Well,
Is
I,
it
I, I
is it
I
is it
feel
more
like that's
relationism, or like would players figure it out, or
well,
is it
that,
more a
isn't this
systems thing?
isn't this like the modern debate about coaches being too granular with information versus letting the players work it out on the fly? I think this is one of those things where it then comes down to the more you give the players autonomy, to do what they want to do, the higher football IQ they need to have. And football IQ is expensive. That's, to me, I was looking in the transfer market. I'm like, that's the most expensive thing. That's what you're paying for a lot of the time. Somebody who knows how to make good decisions. Yeah. So for me, the benefit you have with more specific tactical really, granular level insightful coaches is that the players can be like foot soldiers, almost like lemmings. You can just plug them in and they'll just do. You just need the mind to be willing a lot of the time. But the more you want players to make, creative decisions and, know when to drop, know when to press, know when we're know to put your foot on, put your studs on the ball because we're getting overrun a little bit, and know when to go down for two. Like, it all comes down to IQ, and that's expensive. So you either buy it at a young age and try and develop it, which I think is what we're trying to do, or the players need help from a positional, tactical, identifying what you need to do and triggers more than just letting them go out there and figure it out. And I think to me, under Ange, this is what you would get the difference between an Iraola and an Ange. You're gonna get more detail within Iraola, and some of our out of possession stuff, it would go away. But then you might not score as many goals because the quality of our attacker, when you're telling them to just go out there and do whatever you want to do, it might not be good enough at this current point in time for us to get the results we want. Hence, predetermined moves and goals and strategies that Ange sets out are beneficial for the quality and type of player we've got. Yeah.
Go on, Chris. Go on.
Yeah, and just to continue what Jay's, or to add what Jay said, mentioning Iraola. Iraola, I think last week or the week before, I think he was asked some kind of question about his tactics, the way his team plays or whatever, or if there was some kind of debate. I can't remember exactly what it was. And his answer was, we have to coach them. The players decide. Right? Now, obviously, you have to decide. Okay, if you get to the byline, is it gonna be a lofted cross? Is it going to be a grounded cross? Is it going to be a cutback? Is it going to come down the wing again and look for a central attack? All these kind of nuances tactically, right? That's down to the manager. But the person that ultimately decides is the player, right? Because they have that IQ, they have understood what the team needs to do against XYZ rival, because not all rivals play the same way, of course, right? So you have to tactically, outdo them. But the player as well, having more IQ, will know, even if you're on the ball or off the ball, to either expand. So for example, your centre back has got the ball, right? We're building up play. If you've got no players in front of you that are moving, who the hell are you going to pass to? Right? So if you've got IQ, you're going to look for that free space. You're going to create a triangle, for example. Okay. You're going to look for alternatives. And if everybody's standing still, he's going to get mauled, right? That centre back, because everybody's just going to press him. But that's where IQ comes down to. A lot of the players so a lot of the times you were talking about Porro making the right decision, the wrong decision. Sometimes he's made the right decision. It's just that the pass hasn't got there, or other players haven't been available to make the obvious pass that we can see, which is obviously different down on the green. Okay, it's very different. So I stand with Iraola in that sense, that you can train and you can give all the tactics you want to all your players. At the end of the day, it's the player that makes a decision, and it has to be a synergy between all of them for that to come together. Because if there wasn't, for example, if there wasn't a synergy between who was it, Ajayi, or whatever his name is, Ajayi, and Dane Scarlett the other day, if there wasn't a synergy, right, and that combination, that link-up play wouldn't have happened. Okay. So there has to be a compendium of everything, and not just blame one person or one thing or one. It's a bit of everything. That's what I wanted to add.
Are we saying that irrespective of, I think the injuries do have a massive part to play in it, but do we think that the coaches could be getting more out of some of these players? If we're talking about Areola, if you compare like squad for squad or player for player or 11 for 11, whose 11 would you say is better? Would you say
Well,
Spurs' 11 is better in terms of
just before,
IQ, in terms of the midfield? Go on, Jay. Go
just
on.
on that, just
Go
before,
on.
like, because I think you defend how you defend, and Ange obviously sets up to defend using pressing. So obviously, players being fit and and able to press is a vital part of his tactical plan. So not having fit players is a big issue. Obviously, we've played more games than them. Um, Obviously, they use more of a hybrid press than us. Do you know what I mean? So that would allow them to conserve more energy. But then also you got like the tactical stuff of rotating players, um, the ability to do that, keeping squad balance. You remember they also had runs last season when he first came in, and they had some injuries and stuff, and it wasn't quite clicking for them. And they had quite a few new players that they were trying to bring in. I when I look at when I make the comment about Iraola, I'm more saying that like any managers, like if you compare Ange to Marco Silva, Frank, they all have benefits and disadvantages as to their style and the style of manager that they are. So
Mm.
when I say Iraola, I don't say, oh, I think he could do a better job. All I'm saying is that you're gonna benefit in off the ball structure that I don't believe that we have because of this style of coaching. But I also think on the flip side, we don't score as many goals as we do for fun. You know, there's a method behind the madness, and the rotating people out of positions and this, you know, some people like it, some people don't. I guess this is my way of sitting on the fence and saying I don't know. I think Ange and Iraola have a lot of similarities, even in terms of personality. Like they seem to be quite galvanizing personalities. Players seem to like him. I but we are fucking 14th, you know. So it would be very redundant of me to say that no one could do better than 14th. Do you know what I mean? So I personally, I'm not sure.
Jay,
Add,
what you
go
just
on.
said
Yeah, go on, you go.
is quite key to like the whole Ange in and Ange out kind of stuff. And you know what? A lot of managers they have their coaches, some are head coaches and stuff like that, and they coach their attack and they coach the defense and all that kind of stuff. And people can say the system, has caused us to concede a lot of goals. And for the most part, I would agree that the system, especially in how it's been interpreted, has definitely cost us a lot of goals. But at the same time, there's 11 men on the field. Like, adaptation of what's been told to you is not that difficult, honestly. Like, we've all gone to games at the stadium, we've all watched it on TV. A ball gets switched left or right, and there's no pressure on the man receiving the ball. None. He's able to take it down, have a touch, have another touch, look up, assess what he needs to do, go back. Now, you could put that down in the last month, especially down to tiredness. And I could give you that because some of these players have played 90 minutes consistently. But in games where we've had fresher legs and people have come on, it's still been the same thing. Is that a coaching thing? More than likely. But the adaptation and how players are taking on information in our team is quite frightening. Players like, you know what, I was trying to be nice, but it's here. We're here now. And I'm sorry, I don't care if it hurts anybody's feelings. Players like Brennan Johnson, yeah, they need to go back to school and redo all their tests because I'm not convinced they've passed any test in life. You mean to tell me that outside of being capable of doing your back post runs, which he does very well, by the way, yeah, you've got nothing else to offer the team, which means when going forward, you don't push our opponents back, you don't make them run back towards their goal, you don't do much on the offensive end, and then on the defensive end, you don't even cross the halfway line to help out the right back because obviously he needs help in the system. So when you have our right back or left back inverting in, and it's not so much our left side because Son does try and come back and he does try and double up with his fullback, but it doesn't do it too great. But when they do invert in and we do lose the ball, the wingers don't necessarily run back and drop back into position to help out, which means that the midfielders have to stretch out. And if they don't stretch out, if they're already caught out of place, then it becomes a 2-on-4 or 2-on-3 situation for our centre backs, which we've seen over and over again this season. That for me is the system problem. But I'm also quite aware that people take on information differently. If I turn around to Marlon and I'll say, all right, cool. When we lose the ball, if a player switches it from the left to the right hand side, I need you to be on that man's toes before the ball gets to him. That's what I expect to see when that ball gets switched. Now, he might not do it every single game. He might not be able to do it every single action. But if he gets on the player's first action, instead of allowing him to get a first, second, third, fourth action, we might negate some of the issues. But we don't do that. Left, right, down the middle, players seem to have ample amount of time to make their decision. And at this level, at a professional level, you cannot be giving your opponents 4 or 5 seconds on the ball. That's ludicrous. And we do that a lot.
Yeah,
Can you blame Ange for that? Sure you can. Can you blame the players for that? Sure you can. Regardless of all of that, it's always going to be Levy Out. And right now, it's Ange out.
hey, Kish, do you think Brennan Johnson could be coached better? Do you think another coach get more out of him, or literally Ange's doing all the best he can? He can't get anything more than what he can out of him.
I think when Brennan Johnson came in, I never expected him, and I don't think Ange wanted him as a week in, week out starter. I think the idea was to have him as a sort of fourth option. I think there's certain games where, I mean, his confidence is on the floor at the moment. There's no, like, the levels he's shown are nowhere near good enough. I think when he's on his game, which there has been points in this season, he's been a good addition to the squad. He brings qualities. Those qualities are very game specific. They're not the type of games where you want to be playing against low blocks, because he's not going to offer anything. He needs space to run into.
Yeah.
He also, in my opinion, needs a midfielder behind him who's very touch heavy, like wants the ball all the time. When he's played with Sarr, for example, they're both very straight line runners. They don't complement each other at all. Neither of them are retainers of the ball. Whereas when he was playing with Kulusevski and Madison was on the other side, we didn't need as much retention from him. The ball was retained all the time by those two, and all we needed from Brennan Johnson was those back post runs or those cutting across runs, or Kulusevski would attract a player towards him because that's what he does, and Brennan Johnson create space for it. I think he's a very specific player that lacks a flaw, like lacks a technical flaw, where if we're playing badly, he's the worst player on the pitch. Whereas if we're at our best, and I think we were at our best when we had Kulusevski and Madison, he's that bit on top that can bring goals, bring assists, won't impact the game that much, but he can be decisive in the final third. And I think Son's a similar-ish profile. Obviously, Son has different qualities, but both of those players are goals and assists players. They're decisive players, but you don't want them on the ball for the majority of the game. You want them near to the goal. You want them making runs into space, and you want your ball players to be behind them. I think Johnson, I think he's been poor, but there's obviously context to it.
All right, Marlon, you want to talk about the window?
Yeah, finally.
Yes.
Orange be waiting.
Yes.
Orange be waiting.
So I'm still here.
Orange. Let me look. And look, there a lot of Spurs fans. Look, the window's happened. We signed 3 players. Oh, Kinski, no, 3. It was 3, wasn't it? Who am I missing?
3 players.
Yeah.
It wasn't 4. No. Unless you include the Irish Donny we just signed right now, the academy Don
today.
The
last couple of hours. No, we're not
come in from City and that. I don't know, but yeah, go on.
So look, we signed Kinski on the 1st of Jan, roughly around that time, and then we waited until pretty much this weekend to sign the last 2. Orion, rate the transfer window out of 10. And what did you make of the transfer window in your eyes?
Yeah. I had a conversation with myself last night to answer this question.
Look at the mirror. All right, Oren, what we're going to say is, get it together.
And I said 8 out of 10. And I said, fuck it, Oren, just be honest. I say 10 out of 10. And it's going to fuck a lot of people off. But here's why. Spurs have signed 3 players in the positions that they were needed. Yes, it was 2 of them were late, but Spurs got it done. And also these players fit Ange's system. They're ready to play. More than likely, I would say both of them. No, all 3 will probably start against Liverpool. And they're ready. There was no, yes, Spurs went for this player, that player, but at the end of it, they got the players in. And yeah, so I would have to say 10 out of 10 because Graham Potter said this. He said, like, he was asked like about transfers, and he said it's easy to sign a player. You guys can all sign a player if you wanted to. There's agents everywhere, but to sign a player that fits the system, that's right for the club, that's where it gets tricky, and that's what Spurs have done. And it was the same with like Conte when Kuleveski and Bentancur came in. Was that last minute? Was that the last couple of days?
Yeah.
Ish,
Yeah,
right?
ish.
So it's a case of like the same thing happened, and like I said, I was fully ready to like go, right, here we go. I have to like defend because Kingsley is the only player in, right? But thankfully, Spurs got the deals across the line, and yeah, I would have to say
I,
like
can I
if we,
ask you a question, Oren? Because you
yeah,
said 10 out of 10 window.
yeah,
Do
yeah,
you think if Dragusin never got injured, Danso doesn't really come in?
yeah, I do think so. I'm not sure. I'm not sure because Spurs were looking at defenders. They were still looking at that AC Milan defender. Maybe with Dragusin getting injured, it kind of upped the ante a little bit more. But at the case of it, it's a good steal, and I haven't seen him play other than highlights, but it does look like he fits the system. Like, and we'll all get to see against Liverpool because I do think he's going to start against Liverpool. Him and Van de Ven. So yeah, like I think Till as well. Again, I haven't seen him play other than highlights, but again, it just fits the system. But it's good because I think I said it like the last time. Spurs needed to bring in players who can play straight away. Not even 2 weeks of understanding the system. Not even Kingsley what came in was playing 3 days later against Liverpool. That's exactly what Spurs need. Like, and not only that, players who are willing to come in and play for a club sitting 14th, whose manager is constantly getting told he's clueless, having fans screaming at the chairman saying, get the fuck out, right? So having those three players come in, despite all that, shows that, right, that's the mentality. We're going to ignore the noise, and we're coming in to play for this club. And I said it before, if Till said no or whoever else said no, I'm like, I'm not fucking surprised. Why would you want to come to the club where the fans are shouting, get the manager out? It's like, here, I'm talking to the chairman. By the way, the fans don't like you. Don't like you. They want you out. Manager? Yeah, apparently he's going to get sacked after the Liverpool game because I'm going to listen to pundits. Right? So why would I want to come to Spurs right now? But thankfully they came to Spurs. And yeah, that's why I'm saying 10 out of 10. Because these players are there to play, and we'll probably see them in action against Liverpool. Yeah, go ahead.
Yo, I'm going to bring you in. I want to answer this question first. Eugene has asked, do you think our bid for Gahey was real? And if so, why not bid for him earlier in the window to give Palace a chance to get a replacement? So first of all, answer this question and then rate the window out of 10 and how you saw it.
I think the bid for Gahey was real. Spurs don't make bids. I think it was a genuine bid. But I think they made that bid knowing it was going to be rejected, because as man said, they didn't have no time to replace him. So you kind of throw that bid out there and say, look, we'll give you 70 million for Gahey. Crystal Palace come back with no. They turn around and tell the fans, brother, we tried, didn't it? 70 million's a lot. What more do you want?
On a serious note, right? And do you think it had anything to do with the news that's coming out that Van de Ven could potentially be missing the rest of the season as well?
Really?
I don't.
Yeah, came out today.
There's all this rumor coming out. Honestly, I've heard that he's fine. I've heard that's not what man said. I've heard so many things.
So the rumor is after Thursday's game, he done something again. It didn't. It was. I think it was something. I don't know if it was his knee or something. Something else has happened. It's not. It's something to do with his hamstring, and it's not recovering at the pace that it's supposed to be. And he tripped. Even though he was only meant to play 45 minutes on Thursday, he was meant to play on Sunday. So they gave him the rest. But apparently this morning, it's all coming out that the reason why the Gahey bid went in so late was because Van de Ven's going to be missing for the rest of the season.
Look at Oren's face.
I can't
I
believe
mean,
he's
if
having
that's,
likes with me. Like,
if
how
that's the
dare
case,
they?
Apparently,
It's like, where the fuck does this come
yo,
from?
well, let me.
this might not be true. I'm not
It might
saying
not.
it's
Yeah,
gospel.
it might not be
It might
true.
not be true,
Paul
but this is what's coming out.
came out and he said, because I was watching the show last night, and he said, he came up to the management and he said, "I'm not feeling right. I'm actually not feeling right."
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they said they didn't want to risk it, and so they did it as a precautionary that he should miss the Brentford game.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're gonna announce it tomorrow. So today was the whole Lange video about the whole window, why they moved late, and then tomorrow in an hour's time, or tomorrow, yeah, they're gonna talk about Van der Ven, whether what his status is for the rest of the season, whether he can make it for Thursday or if he's written off.
Okay.
Still
Well,
at 10 out of 10 with Oren.
well, let me address
God, yo.
the Mickey Van der Ven injury. To be honest with you, we've not had him for most of the season. You know, if he is injured, we
Yeah.
just have to deal with it for whatever it is. If he's not injured, great. Manage the minutes or manage his body better towards the end of the season. In terms of the window, it's nowhere near 10 out of 10. This is
That's that's me. I'm just gonna be because like I say they got 3 players. And I said it's me. That's personally me. I'm the only fan who thinks 10 out of 10.
But Oren,
I know
He said,
every
Oren,
Yeah.
you're entitled to have your number.
every
because-
other
stand
fan.
on your business. Don't back your
No.
chat, bro. Back
Oren, you're entitled to have your number. For me,
Every-
thing.
it's not 10 out of 10. And
I know you won't agree. I know a lot of fans won't agree because you probably expected at least 11 players to come in.
Impossible,
Right?
because
You know,
you
or
can't
6
expect
players.
11 players to come in. Now, what I'll say is this: it's not about expecting 11 players to come in. 3 players is even more than surprisingly you'd get in January. You'd be lucky to get 1 in a January window. So, but I'm not giving it 10 out of 10 because we got 3 men over the line. Look, we started January with a massively depleted squad. Our goalkeeper was injured. Pretty much the majority of our back line was injured. We came into January knowing we needed a centre back and at least a goalkeeper option because Austin wasn't being used at that point. Our injuries, and the majority of our injuries, happened in December 8th. It's gross negligence, to go into the first week of January, get a goalkeeper, and then wait another 30 days, or in the case of January, 78 days, because it's a double month, to go and get 2 other players. It's actually poor on the board's team. And to be honest with you, it looks even worse on Levy because it looks like he only reacted when fans started calling him out of his name. He's lucky I wasn't in the stadium because I'd have led the chance earlier. But the truth be told, I can't give
Sure,
this a 10
that's-
out of 10 because we got a goalkeeper, yes, but it's the goalkeeper that we were looking to get in the summer, so we brought it forward. That's fine. That makes sense. Danzo, I don't know how long they've been looking at him. Maybe could have pulled the trigger on that earlier in the season, earlier in the window, possibly. All of this stuff would have been difficult to have been done. However, you have to make moves. There was literally a week or even nearly 10 days of no news whatsoever. It was just, oh, we're looking at a striker. And the fans are like, okay, you're looking at a striker, but we're leaking goals. Our toilet's broken. We need a flipping plumber. Like,
that's
what
the
the hell
thing.
is going on over here?
But I get what you're saying, right? But that's the thing. Spurs weren't saying anything. It's the reports. It's X. It's Twitter.
But this is the
They're
problem.
always sure. If you look at Twitter, Spurs were linked to every single player. This player, this player, this player.
Now we
this
weren't.
player.
Not this time.
What happens is fans go, "Yes, we need that. Yes,
No,
we need that player."
that's not what happened this
And
time.
when Spurs don't have it, it's kind of like, "Oh, fuck you,
Nah.
PV. You don't care about."
Nah,
It's
that's
always
not
the
what
same.
happened this time.
Every transfer
Normally
window.
that would be the case.
Nah,
but
no-
that's not what happened
Every
this time.
transfer window is the same.
But not this
Spurs
one.
get linked to players.
That's not what
Yo,
happened this time.
Oren, not this one. Not this one.
This transfer window was not the case. Spurs fans were very specific at the beginning.
What?
We just need bodies. Ange himself came
Yeah.
out. We need
Yeah,
bodies.
no, I'm saying
Nobody
Yeah,
else.
but we
said
weren't
that.
linked. We
There
weren't
wasn't-
linked with nobodies.
We weren't
The only
linked
person
with
the
nobody.
only person we were linked with was Muwani. That was
Exactly.
it.
yes,
we weren't,
money, and
we
then
weren't even linked with Rashford, and Rashford put in a request 3 weeks ago.
yes, I know. I'm not saying that the we are linked with players is done by journalists. But Spurs never came out and said who they were going
And
for.
this, we don't
That's
need
what I'm
the club to
saying. They
come
don't
out
need
and
to.
say we're going out for these players. This is the problem that we have as Spurs fans, and not only as Spurs fans, but the way our club is run. Injuries happen across any sport,
Mhm.
and you can plan for things well in advance. Kinski was a goalkeeper that we were looking to bring in the summer, which means they have their summer targets already planned out. You mean to tell me in that whole time period they didn't have any defensive recruits possibly planned out? Of course they did. Whatever they were doing in the background, they weren't executing. To get to the end of the window, by the way, we came into this window on what was it, 11 defeats? 11 defeats by January. We came into the window. It's gross negligence
That's a bit extreme, like.
to wait so long to get extra bodies, considering the fact that we're also in Europe and other cup competitions, to wait that long to get extra bodies. Now, they got in a defender. Okay, cool. You are unfortunate with Dragusin going down injured. But to be honest with you, Dragusin has not had a good time at all. And to get Matthias Tell, all right, well done. You got that over the hill. For me, this is not a 10 out of 10 window. It is at the very best, no matter what happens towards the end of the season, at the very best, it's a 4 out of 10 window because we didn't cover all the positions that we needed. And one of the biggest positions that we actually needed, bigger than any, not even the defense. I know most people will be like, yeah, we need defenders, we needed attackers. No, the one position that we needed the most severe looking at was the defensive midfield positions because Bentancur is Mr. Glass. He's either broken or suffering a concussion, and his wife has to make excuses for why he's got another headache. And freaking Basuma has been taking balloons since he was 18. The guy is high and strong on malaria. We're struggling over here. So we needed a six. We didn't get a six. We went and got Danzo, a Ghanaian that was born in England but raised in Austria. The confusion is worse and worse. And then we decided to go back from Matthias Tell. He didn't know whether he was coming or going. He decides he wants to come. We've got him for 6 months. It cost us £10 million. We don't know what we're doing. This can never be a 10
When
out
you
of
say
10
we, like,
window.
but,
Impossible. Not while I
but
walk on
it's not.
green
It's
earth.
not easy.
It's gonna
It's
be a
not
10
easy
out of
though.
10
It's
window.
not easy. It's not easy to you and the we fans. It's easy. It's get
It's
players,
easy.
get players.
How can it be easy?
It's not easy.
No, it's
No,
not
it's not
easy.
easy. So it's like
But
it's
planning,
easier said than
planning
done.
allows things to be easy. We listen.
But why? It
There
doesn't
is
matter. Like I said,
nobody.
like I've said,
Matthias Tell said no to Levy. Remember
no,
this.
he
He
didn't.
said
See, here's the thing. He
no.
didn't say no to Levy.
He said
That's
no
the
to
thing.
Levy.
No, listen. Like if you
He
read the reports,
100% said no to Levy.
no, he didn't say no to Levy. He
He
said
said no to
no to come into Spurs
He
permanently.
said no. He said no to
See,
Levy. He
that's
said
the
no to
thing.
Latch.
The same
Levy
Leeds
said
fans,
no from
because you
his fans. He
despise
said
Levy
no
so
from
much.
his
No,
wife.
he didn't say no to
He said
Levy.
no from the players.
He
He
didn't
said
say no
no
to
from
Levy.
Harry Kane. He said
So,
no
so
from
he
Harry
said no.
Kane's wife.
No,
He
so
said
he said no. He said no to
everybody
Levy,
said
and
no
then
to
he said
him.
yes to Levy. Oh
He
wait,
said
wait,
yes to
wait.
Ange.
What's the narrative? No,
No,
Angie made a
he
call. It
said
was
yes to Ange.
Angie who did it.
That's what they
Who's
said.
paying the wages? No, he
He
didn't
said
say no
Ange
to
on the
Levy.
call. Ange sat him down and
Spurs,
said, look,
Spurs
don't
made a
listen to
bid.
that guy. Don't
Spurs
listen to
made
the
a
guy. The
bid.
fans don't like him. The
Spurs
fans
made
don't
a
like
bid.
him. Listen to me, mate.
No,
Listen to me,
Spurs
mate.
made a
Come
bid.
over here. You're going to play well, mate. That's what he said.
No, Spurs made a bid, right?
Mm,
Permanently. Till said, no, I do not want to leave Bayern Munich for permanent.
mm.
So he said no. Then Manchester United came in. Manchester United didn't want to pay the 6.5 million.
Did Levy go to Germany?
Yes, he did.
Did he sit down with the representatives?
Yes.
Yep.
Did he come back with the player?
No.
No.
Okay, so
Or
did
he
the
did.
player say no to him?
But he said no to Spurs.
No, Levy's not Spurs.
Oh, he's not Spurs. So
No, he's the chairman of Spurs. Yeah,
that doesn't make no sense.
he's not
That
Spurs.
makes absolutely no sense. That's
He's
making my
not
shit.
Spurs.
How is he not
The
Spurs?
man went over there to negotiate. He had to
Yes.
tell the man directly, I do
He
not
went to
want
negotiate
this.
on a permanent
He
deal.
wanted to
Till
negotiate.
didn't want to come to Spurs on a permanent deal. He
He
wanted to come on
said
5
no
on loan.
to the man asking him the question directly. If I say, hey, Oren,
He said
you want
no.
to go and watch Moana 2? It's out in cinemas. And you turn around and say no. You said no to me. You didn't say no to my establishment.
No, I said I said no to what you're offering. I'm not saying no to you. If you said you want to come with me and sit in my house, I will say maybe we can have a beer or whatever. But if you ask me to, if I
I like
want to
a
do
sellout
something I
twat.
don't want to do, if you said, do you want to come and play fucking rugby or whatever, and I'm like, no, I'm saying no, I don't want to play rugby. But if you said, do you want to go and fucking smoke a joint, sit on the beach, chill, I'm saying yes to you.
I'm not
There's a
sure
big
about the joint
difference.
on the beach. It's a bit hot, but I agree.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying like so. It was no, but now he said yes because he's there for 5 months, and that's what he wanted.
He might stay.
He might, but I think more than likely he'll go back to Bayern Munich because he wants to play as
He
a
wants to be a
striker.
Bayern Munich legend. We've heard him say this
Yeah.
many times.
So that's why he came over. But I know, I get it. Like that's what I'm saying. When it comes to X and Sky Sports and talk shit and all, they fucking Levy is a dick. He's this, he's that. And you know what? Out of all of it, I kind of have to have respect for him because who the
But
fuck?
Oren,
Let me finish.
but but you just said that all came from the English press. Actually, the what we
Yeah,
were
of
told
course,
from
of
Tell
course. That's
came
what
from
I'm saying, okay.
came from Germany and France.
All
It didn't come
Germany,
from
France,
us.
everyone who Levy, fucking even people
No,
who
but
met
no,
Daniel
but what I'm
But here's
trying
the
to say,
thing.
no, Oren. But what I'm trying to say is they have no affiliation to Levy at all. The
You
people that
don't need
reported
to.
this have
If you're told someone's a dickhead, you're going to believe he's a dickhead.
no, but they had. But you're talking about Talk Sport and all them. It wasn't them that come out with this. It was the
No,
guys
yes,
French.
I
It was in
I know
France
that. I'm not
and
going to
Germany.
mention
But
it.
you're sitting. Yeah, but you've sit there and said straight away that they have an affiliation because they're hearing what's wrong with Levy, but they didn't. They're coming out exactly and telling you what the player and the agency have come out and said had nothing to do with whether they like Levy or not. They report the right thing because the guy that reported it in Germany is in with Bayern Munich. He was the one who broke the Harry Kane stuff and was everything like that and came out with it.
Yeah.
Right, and he's the one who said Levy and that lot came over. He told them no, and then the guys in France that they all talked to came out and said they don't know Levy from Adam. It didn't come from our press.
Yes. So no, that's what I'm saying though. So therefore, he didn't reject Daniel Levy. He rejected
Well, he
the
did.
proposal. For fuck's sake, he rejected the proposal.
No,
of
Daniel.
what the offer was.
So Lange spoke to Daniel Levy and said, "I think I'm losing this deal." And it was the whole situation of what happened with Porro, right, where Daniel Levy got
Yes,
it over the line.
but you're missing the
Right,
point.
so he came over and he tried to persuade him to come to Spurs permanently. Yes, but he still said no. I don't want to come and join you. Right,
on a permanent basis.
However, whatever's the conversation between Ange and Tell is the reason why Tell is here. Nothing to do with Levy.
No, but
Lange,
because the negotiations was changed to we're willing to bring you on loan. Then
so why did?
Willing
So
to bring
how come?
you
So
on
what? So what? So why has Levy then agreed to that? But when he's gone over there, well, he probably was told exactly the same thing.
Because, like, basically, Brian. No, it was always a loan. It was a loan with obligation to buy. Right. Tottenham went, we're going to give you 60 million. Mm-hmm. Bayern Munich accepted the deal.
Yes.
Then went over until said, no, I do not want to leave Bayern Munich on a permanent basis. I want to only go for 5 months. So then Spurs went, okay.
Do you not think that in those negotiations, when he went over there and Levy and Lange knew this, do you not think that Levy then went and offered and went, all right, we'll take you on loan and the obligation?
I don't know. You can make that assumption.
Oren, I'll ask a question then. On top of that, do you think the whole Ange went and got him? Do you think that's PR?
It's might be.
I don't know.
It was the same with Paratici. Remember when he came in? He was the Don. He was the reason why everyone came to Spurs.
Well, he was
it's whatever. It's Ange went to get him, not Daniel Levy. But the way I look at it, in the truth, whether it's Levy, whether it's Ange, only thing that fucking matters is he's at Spurs. That's it.
Not exactly.
Spurs.
I have to ask a question because we just want to clarify. It's the first time meeting you, brother, and I love your name. I like the way it's spelled. It's correct. But I have to ask a question. Are you a Levy sympathizer?
No, I am not necessarily like let me finish because I have to go after this. Levy's all the chat, right? I look at Daniel Levy and I was supporting Spurs since he needs to go over. And I have to have a certain level of respect for him. Because it takes a special human being to sit in stands and have over 60 or whatever, 50,000 people saying, get the fuck out. Having banners constantly, like his wife, his kid is there, and not once has he ever hid. He'll go to every game, he'll sit, he'll take the abuse, and he'll keep on doing what he's doing. Because Daniel Levy's a Spurs fan, believe it or not. You can Google this before you all go against me. He said I read an article about him when he took over Spurs, or when Enoch took over Spurs. He said he used to go to Tottenham Hotspur to watch Spurs play. He's not a die-hard fan.
Yeah, we booed him when he was there.
Yeah, of course. Right? So therefore,
And to be fair, Oren, if you read the articles, yeah, he actually got confused because he's confused himself for which games he actually went and watched, because he said one with his granddad or something, and then
Yeah.
one another. He's confused himself. So if he's that much of a Spurs fan,
Well,
I'm
he was
sorry.
young.
If I,
Come
if,
on,
no,
Marlon,
but
he
if,
was
no, no, no,
young.
no,
He
no,
was
no.
a young
If
kid.
I asked every Spurs fan, name me your first Spurs game you went to, every single person on this panel would be able to name it, when it was, and what experience.
But
I'm sorry,
oh,
but you
come
just
on,
said he's a
right?
Spurs
Okay,
fan.
well, you know what? Take a 5-year-old kid and then ask him in 30 years' time what the first Spurs game was, and see what he
I,
answers.
I'll
Come on, like,
give you the same
no,
answer. I
that's
know what my first game was when I was 5. I can tell you. I can tell
what,
you the goal scorers. I can tell you who we played.
right? Okay, right.
I was 5.
My point is, you all don't like Daniel Levy, and I completely understand it, right? That's fine. But personally, I look at it and go, I have no reason to dislike him. Marlon, I said to you in the chat, I supported Spurs from 8 years old. I didn't support Spurs because of Daniel Levy or Harry Kane or Gareth Bale. I supported Spurs because they're a football club. And seeing through the Alan Sugar days, fucking White Hart Lane, all the way, the fact that this is going to piss people off, but the reason why everyone is pissed off with Daniel Levy, because you think that Spurs should be winning titles, should be challenging, is based on what Daniel Levy and Enoch's done. They've raised the profile of the club without winning trophies in how long, guys? When was the last time Spurs won a trophy? I keep forgetting. 30. right, as a joke, right? So basically, Spurs have came close, but like I said, if you look at that, what he's done, he's never hid. He could have sold the club, and he's faced the hate. He's constantly getting booed, faced the hate, but yet Spurs are still in the position where if he'd have sacked Angie, fucking people would have turned him even more. But he said no. He stuck with Angie. And I look at it and think, right, do I ever have to be worried about Spurs going bankrupt? No. Do I have to worry about Spurs breaking 1,000 rules or whatever? No. Managers win trophies, not chairmen. Should Poch have won the Premiership twice? Yes, I do believe so. FA Cup, Champions League? Yes, I do think so. Can you imagine what happened if Poch had won those 2 trophies? Okay, maybe the second season against Conte, right? Poch had the 2 best team, or one of the best teams in Spurs history. All young, by the way, didn't cost 60, 30, 80 million. They were all like, Ericsson was 12 million, stuff like that. I just think that when I watch Man City lift trophies, I'm looking and I'm thinking, right, where's the chairman? Where's the chairman in the pictures?
Chairman went and got the Maguero. He paid.
Yes, but he won and got the
didn't wanna
Maguire
pay.
because Man City won the championship, won the title with another manager.
No, they paid the tax that Levy didn't want to pay, because most people forget that Spurs actually activated Aguero's buyout clause. They actually forget that.
Yeah.
That was heavily reported. But we didn't want to pay the tax because this is what Daniel Levy does. Or João Moutinho on deadline day. Or Bruno Fernandes. I mean, the list is endless.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Mane.
keep going.
Should we
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to Salah as well?
All those great
I'm,
players.
I'm very
Yeah.
thankful. Oren, I understand what you're saying, and I'm very thankful for the shiny stadium that Daniel Levy.
No, it's not just sorry. Before I go, it's not just a stadium. I'm not talking about just a stadium. I'm talking about everything.
Oh yes, actually, you know what? Let me add
Everything.
He brought the shiny stadium, the new training ground, but the most important thing that he brought to our club that we should all be proud of is Beyonce, because nobody in this chat can live without Beyonce.
It's like Jackson Oldham.
Beyonce. I feel like falling in love. Listen, you don't even know the half of it, bro. When she
It's
says
like Jackson Oldham.
I'm all about it. But the truth be told is, a chairman's job is to run the club as well as possible. Now, football and sports in general is always a two-pronged tier: business and what you get on the field. Great. On the business side, nobody can fault Enoch or Levy, because they've taken Spurs from what it was to where they are now, especially on the global side. But this is where the buck stops, because sports is a very, very simple thing to understand. You're not going to get everything right, but some things you just have to hold up your head. Now, you can be correct. Pochettino should have done better in certain games. Should have managed the team better. Maybe a player should have stepped up and done something better. Maybe a player should have not hidden. But every time you get close to something that you could have touched, you've got to go back into the market and see where the issues were and strengthen. You know what he did when we were at our height under Pochettino? He said, "You know what, Poch? You've done a great job. How about you go 18 months without a player? Enjoy."
There's context to that, though. What's the context?
Oh, you're going to say the stadium.
Yeah.
You're going to say the stadium. That's
And by the way, who did Spurs sell in that 18 months? They sold one player in Dembele in January. Didn't sell anyone else.
Yeah, we sold Dembele in January. We didn't even replace him.
Yeah.
So you need to tell me a team can't do a loan deal because this same team that apparently
No,
had
at that moment.
context for let me get this right. Context for building a £1 billion stadium. The same team that had to use context for this could go and get Werner for 2 years running and pay his full wages.
Yeah, but that's after the fact. That's not June.
I mean, according to the thing, we had a budget.
They're building a stadium.
No, we had a budget. The reason why we couldn't go and get another winger during the summer is because we had a budget.
Yeah, like all football teams have budgets.
We couldn't get a loan.
Did anybody see who we were trying to sign to replace Dembele? What's his name come out? Steve Hitchen came out and said
Frankie de Jong.
Frankie de Jong, and basically, Mr. Chair, basically, from what I can sense from what he's trying to say, he's trying to throw you know who under the bus because there's a bunch of players that he wanted to sign and they never came through again. And I think it's going to be another common theme.
Does anyone
Steve is a snitch? Yeah, let's all call a spade a spade. Steve is a snitch. That's why he's called snitching. Yeah. But the truth be told is, we don't really care how much snitching he's doing. There, people come out and say the same thing about Daniel Levy. They all come and say the same thing about Daniel Levy. Even other chairmen don't even like talking to Daniel Levy. They see the phone. It says, "You're Fazio. Why are you calling me at this time of the night?" Don't call me again.
Yeah. Daniel Levy's clickbait. He's a fucking villain. He's willing to play the villain. You got to give him credit for that. If he's in WWE, he'd be fucking Vince McMahon.
No, because Vince McMahon can actually win titles.
He's willing to play the villain.
Very true. Very true.
You know what I mean?
Before we go, look, I want to get Chris and Kishes on.
Sorry.
On transfer window. We could be here, love. But Chris, I'm going to bring you in on it because how did you rate the transfer window?
I agree to a certain extent with Owen that we got what we needed to get in because Ange was week in, week out asking for help. You need help. You get players in on loan. You get players in on permanent deals. Where the January transfer window is extremely difficult unless you can fork out whatever the clubs want. Like City, for example, they may be an exception to the rule, and they fork out the money because they've got a very good structure, and I'd love that structure at Spurs. I mean, I've said it for God knows how long. They are a model. 115 charges, whatever you want, put that out the window. They're a very well-run club. Now, the transfer window, I agree with your as well, because I think that we needed a defensive midfielder in there. Now, could we get what we needed now, or is it set up for the summer? We do not know. Okay, unless someone's got that information, I certainly don't. But if they went out looking for a midfielder, we didn't get it. So, I mean, out of 10, I'll give it a 7 because I think that we needed that extra player. Three was great. Right,
So
in the positions. Yeah,
Chris,
sorry.
interrupt you. Would you say Ange is back then if you're giving it a 7 out of 10?
He's been back for 12 months.
I think, yeah, to a certain extent, of course he's been back. I mean, we don't know. I mean, I'm not privy. I mean, this is the thing. The issue that I've got with what Oren is saying. I agree with him. It's all the press, and the press have to sell. They have to sell, and they have to make money off news and possibilities. And such and such was Yoro, right? Yoro, who plays for Man United, we all know Yoro, or however you want to call him, but over here in Spain we call him Yoro. He was signed for Real Madrid like months ago, and he's in Manny, right? So, and that was the press. So the press has got a lot of culpability right? Whenever they lead people down down a different road, right? And when they get it right, whenever it's done, then they come out and they say, "Look, we told you it was going to happen." Yeah, but hang on, but no, it doesn't work like that because you were telling us that this was done and then it wasn't. So X and socials are they ruin a lot of people's perceptions. Right now, a lot of people were saying on Twitter and having a go at me, and I don't care because I'm over 12, so I can deal with it. But Disasi's crap. Disasi's this. Disasi's that. Disasi's awful. Disasi's been played out wide as a right back under Maresca, 14 games or wherever he's got. Of course, he's going to be crap. But you look at him individually, you think, what can he bring? Well, he might actually bring more than Danso can, from what I've seen. Right, and I don't go on stats. I'm not an XG kind of guy. I use my eyes, and what I see in Disasi is more than what I've seen with Danso. Now, in the context of how Ange wants to use him, maybe Danso's a better fit, right? But that's up to them. That's why I keep away of a lot of opinions of I know more than you and you know more than me and my opinion is this and my opinion is that. No, because I don't have all the context. The professional people that are there day in and day out have the context, and they know how and why and what to do. That's why they get paid. So yeah, I do think that he's been backed. Could he have been backed better? We don't know. Why? Why do I say we don't know? Because we don't know what other deals were possibly made or were not made. Do you know what I mean? So I can't answer the question, 150%. Whether it was a great window, but I agree with her in that we got what we needed. I think we lacked a little bit. If we got a midfielder in, even if it's on loan just to help out, right, it would have been a 9. But I'm going with a 7 because we got what we needed, bar that player. I mean, okay. I'm a complicated guy. I'm sorry.
Hey, Ash, bring Kish before you come in.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna ask a question. But go on, Kish. Go on.
Yeah. I'd probably rate it a 6 out of 10. I think
Kish, feel the rate of 4. Don't worry about these two.
No. I mean, I was at a 4, and then the Tell deal happened, and I think he's a game changing signing. So, he's one of the best young players in the world, and is ready to contribute right away.
Just on that Tell one, because he got 0 goals last season. Was it this season? Sorry, he's on 0 goals, 0 assists.
He's 12 goals in 60 for Bayern Munich.
12 goals.
That's 0.2 ratio.
I do because some people say he's 19-year-old. He's a 19-year-old. He's got no goals this season. Is he worth the weight of gold that that everyone's talking about? Everyone says he's generational and all of this. Is he really that guy? Go on, Kish.
Yeah, for me, it's not going to be a weight. I think people will see immediately the step up he is from.
So he'll hit the ground running, you reckon?
I firmly believe so. Yeah, I think the buying context is key. I mean, he's getting bit part minutes towards the end of games. Often. Yeah, I mean the role he's played in at Bayern didn't really especially suit him, but I think his style of play needs rhythm. He's a proper sharp shooter, get out your feet, curl it back post. Kind of a proper rhythm player that needs a run of games to get into his flow. But I think once he gets in his flow, it's gonna be like a real step up. I think he's capable of playing both out wide and as a 9. He's athletic. He's got more 1v1 ability than most players in our 11. He's a great striker of the ball. I think some of his shot selection is a bit wild at times, as in he's over eager to shoot. But I think part of this reason is he's over eager to impress, and when you're getting bit part minutes, I think he wants to make an impact to get more minutes. I think with the flow of games, he'll hit the ground running, and he's pretty complete in terms of technically and physically. I think.
Do you think his best position is on the left, like where Son is?
I think
or
for
up
now.
front?
I think for
And-
now. I think for now
But,
is.
but
Sorry, I was listening to the German reporter when he was announcing this, and he said Kish is not a winger; he's a striker. He wants to play as a striker.
Yeah. I saw that today as well.
Yeah.
I think
You
his
think
long
Angie will play him over?
yeah, I think his
Richarlison?
long-term future lies as a striker. I think the way he strikes the ball, his movement's clever. He's physically strong.
Is he fast? Like,
He's rapid.
yeah, he's
okay,
fine.
okay.
And so yeah, I think it all makes up. It reminds me, and obviously it's a different level of player, but Henri started out on left.
Yeah, that's what.
And he liked those channel runs. Similar type of finisher as well in terms of always looking to bend it into the far corner. Yeah, I think that his trajectory will be a 9, but to be honest, right now I'd rather see him on the left wing because I think we've needed a winger who can take on his man for a long time, and while that's not his forte, he can definitely bring an upgrade there.
So the reason why I ask is because we have a right wing issue at the moment where Johnson. I'm not sure if he's going to be fit for Thursday. I doubt he'll be available. I'm not too sure, but could you see him playing right wing?
I think he'll start on right wing
And then if he doesn't score, for example, against Liverpool right wing, and then he doesn't score in our next game against Aston Villa right wing again, and then he doesn't score against Manchester United, that's 3 decent clubs where you expect him to, if you're going to hit the ground running, he's got to score at least 1 goal against 3 of them. Would you consider that as well? Would you expect some fans to get onto him after like 3 games? And not
knowing our fan base, probably but I wouldn't take I'd say right wing he's capable. Like he's just one of those players that is technically of such a level and physically of such a level that he's going to make an impact in that front 3. I think right wing's probably his least suited position, but he will be able to beat his fullback, and he will have the quality to whip in crosses that are precise. I think right wing is kind of limits him, and his sort of signature move is cutting in from that, even when he's playing as a 9, sort of drifting out to the left side, cutting in on his right foot. I do think we'll start on right wing on Thursday because just of what's available. Although I also wouldn't be surprised if Kulusevski's out right and Son's out left and he's down the middle. But I do think he'll start. But I think people don't quite realize how much of an upgrade he is from what we've currently got, especially in their current physical condition. Whereas he has,
he's fresh.
Because obviously you spoke about Brennan Johnson and the lack of pauser or the lack of just being able to look after the ball. To keep it simple. So I talk a bit too technical, but just to keep it hold on to the ball. Johnson doesn't really provide that. And you said earlier with Kulusevski in the midfield, that allows Johnson to play higher up in that pinch. Do you think then with Tell that if he played on that right wing, he wouldn't need so much dependency on Kulu holding on to the ball, looking after
I don't think he'll need as much dependency. What I do think is again he's not quite the right profile in terms of staying out on that touchline and providing the width that Ange supposedly wants. But we keep trying to see him into try and buy wingers that like that inside channel more. I think he's a great mover off the ball, and I think playing with Kulusevski would benefit him because of sort of his creative ability. But again, Tell is not going to struggle to retain possession the same way that Johnson does. He's not going to struggle sort of with Johnson. It often takes him 3 touches to get the ball under control. Tell, he's the kind of player that kills it with one touch. I think everyone will be very impressed when they see him and sort of shocked at maybe the level of our current forwards.
Have you seen him on Y Scout? Is that what it is? Have you seen him?
Yeah. I'm just writing a thread on him coming out tomorrow on Lily White Lab. So it will come out tomorrow. But I've been watching him for Y Scout. But also I first saw him in the under 17 Euros. with Desiree Doué and Warren Zaire-Emery in one team, and that team was just ridiculous. And Tell was playing as a 9 at that point.
Can I actually just say, in terms of Thursday, I'd like to see this. I don't think it will happen, but if Ange was to take a risk, in a sense of like trying to get us to the final, I'd put Son on the right, Tell on the left, Richarlison up top. The reason why I put Tell on the left is because I think Spence on the left, he obviously is more defensively astute, and if he has to get back and try and help him, he can. Son can then obviously get back and help Porro, which should obviously give us a decent balance. And if we put Kulu in the middle, because we don't have Madison, I think he's still injured, we should have at least a decent balance up there. And I think putting Tell on his more favoured side so far would probably benefit him coming into the game. I'm not saying I'm opposed to him playing on the right, because anything that keeps Brennan Johnson away from my screens will put me very happy. I mean, he's called Jason Derulo. That's his nickname.
Do you think that
what you want?
Do you think with Thursday that maybe Ange will have the same midfield as Bentancur and Bissouma? Because they actually, when Ange first took over, everyone was excited to see that, but it never quite happened with the injuries and suspensions between both players. But we saw that first time it happened, and it seems like Bentancur was able to not be as tired, because Bissouma was kind of like the guy who would just be the dirty player, where Bentancur was more finesse, and it actually worked. And it did. Who came off at halftime? Was it Bentancur or Bissouma for Burville?
Bissouma, wasn't it?
Was it Bissouma? So
Bissouma, he had to do something.
Yeah. So basically, he's rested. Bentancur. Did Bentancur come on for Sarr? Or did he play the full? He played the full.
Bentancur played the full, I think.
Yeah. So I just wonder if that's going to be the case. Like if it's going to be Bentancur and
Bissouma. Bissouma didn't come off. Bissouma came off for Sarr. Burville came on for Mikey Moore.
So so Bissouma has rest. He only got 45 minutes or a little bit longer.
Bissouma 68 in the 68th minute.
I just think that it looked like a good combination of Bentancur being, like I said, the finesse player, and Bissouma being the little dog warrior running around.
Because I was there, right, and the reason why it worked was because they both couldn't push forward. They allowed Kulu to play the free role in that first half of Mikey Moore. They basically said to Son, Mikey Moore, and Kulu, Bissouma and Bentancur are not going to back you up. They're going to sit there and be aligned, because with our numbers, whoever plays the number 8 role has to basically help the forwards. But you could tell that he told both of them, do not push forward, because once Bentancur had lost his man, Bissouma was there to back him up. This is something we have not seen completely throughout the whole time, that even when they've played together, we've not seen that, because they've always been told one go forward, one go back. So, and as someone pointed out earlier, Bentancur's he gets injured, but then he also can't cover 2 players, and nor can Bissouma. So you end up getting in a situation where both of them end up, and the Leicester goal was the prime example, where we've conceded so many goals as well from where they've picked up in the middle. Bissouma and Bentancur. So it all depends on Thursday whether Ange wants to go out all attack or defend or sit in that block to cope with Liverpool.
Well, here's the thing, and this is the last thing because I have to go. I'm staying with it. A lot of people came out against Brentford or with Brentford and says Ange changed his style, and I always put a smile, because if you look against Man City and Liverpool, and I've been saying this from the start, if Spurs score first, they will sit back and look to counter. Spurs only press and hustle until either when they're trying to get a goal or when they're behind. But when they because Brentford, I'm not saying that Spurs were still playing kind of a high line against Brentford. I think Brentford had a chance where the ball was played over the top. It was just a bad touch. But when Spurs got that goal, I noticed they sat back, and it was the same with against Man City. If Spurs score first, they will sit back, invite pressure, and then look to counter.
No, I think it was more down to, when you look at Liverpool and Man, you've used 2 examples which are great examples, but Manchester City and Liverpool play with the ball. I think for the first time, because if you look at the home game when we played against Brentford, it was completely different to the away game. we've never gone against a team that's probably who like to attack and gone, especially when they're mid-table, and gone, go on, you have the ball. Like, let's take Brighton. In the first half against Brighton, how we were brilliant. We literally took the game to them, but we just couldn't cope in the second half. So I think what's happening here is, when you saw Brentford at the weekend, Ange did change it. He basically said, and this is where he basically said, do what you do against Liverpool and Man City, give them the ball, let them have it, because Mbeumo and Visa are going to the main threat. But Mbeumo was being Spence was coping with him so well that Brentford couldn't really do anything. Damsgaard was getting the ball in the middle, but because he had two players around him for once, instead of having one, it allowed our front three, and it allowed Son to get on the ball a lot more. Even though there was a lot of bits where he wasn't great, but he allowed him to get on the ball more, and it allowed Mikey Moore and Kulu in the second half and Bergvall to kind of take control of the game. The problem in the second half, and this was the biggest issue that I saw in the second half, Richarlison was tired and he couldn't hold the ball as much as he was doing in the first half, which caused a massive issue until Dane Scarlett came on.
Yeah.
And I do agree with you in the sense of Dane Scarlett's not ready to be starting. However, for that last 20 minutes, he was good enough to do exactly what we needed to get over the line. And that's where the goal came from, because Sarr, Son and Spence were able to make their movements, and it opened them up, because Scarlett was actually causing the two defenders a bit of a problem.
So Marlon, just on that, do you think then that maybe Tell should start then? Because Tell's going to be the one pressing, and if we need a player to press for our system to work, and also if Danzo starts, I think we'll be a lot more aggressive, because I think Danzo's meant to be doing the Romero role where he pushes a little bit higher up. Do you think we're a bit more front-footed, or do we sit back like we did against Brentford and he keeps it the same?
Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to go. Great
have
channel,
to
great
go,
chat,
guys.
and hopefully we'll talk about another win next time I'm on. All right, see you later.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
Yeah, Kish, before you go, just quickly tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, thank you. At Lily White Lab.
It's in the description as well.
Yeah, thank you, by the way. At Lily White Lab on Twitter. I'm going to be dropping a Matisse Tell thread tomorrow-ish.
Watch out for it, man.
So yeah, have a read of that, and I'll love to come on at some other point. So let me know, guys.
No, thanks for coming on, Kish.
Thank you very much,
pleasure, man.
Nice to meet you, mate.
You too.
Love.
That's fun. Hello, hang up. Nice.
Yeah, so we'll do. Yeah, this will be the last topic, guys, and then we'll wrap it up after this. But yeah, go on, what you saying, Ash?
Can't even remember. No, I was saying, do you think Spurs will be, because some people reckon that Danzo might start or is likely to start as the centre back, meaning Archie Gray will come out and he will partner maybe like Ben Davies as the left back. Do you think we'll be slightly more aggressive in our press, meaning that Tell would start up top? Because if Tell's up top, then he's going to be able to press, and that helps everyone to push higher up. The fullbacks push higher up, and then there's less gaps all over. Or do you think we are more reserved against Liverpool and we do what we did against Brentford and we sit back? Because the reason why I asked it is because Ange was a bit prickly and he came out and he was talking about, the guy said, "Oh, you changed it a little bit," and he was like, "No, they were tired. It's not. What do you expect?" Do you know what I mean? So, which one do you expect us to see? Do you expect us to sit back, or do you expect us to go on the front foot?
I'll let you and Chris answer this.
Wait, what position did you say you expect Gray to be?
No, I was saying that Gray might come up because Danso is the new centre back, and Danso's a little bit more front footed. He's a lot more aggressive, and the way he played under Will Steele in the back four at times. I know he played in the back three for the previous manager, but I think for Will Steele, he played in the back four. He was a lot more vertical and aggressive, and he won the ball higher up, and he did tactical fouls higher up. So I'm expecting, if he is in the side, for that to be the case. He's going to be more aggressive than Archie Gray is, for example, go man to man and push them back. And then would that mean Tell would start up front? Because like Marlon was saying, with Scarlett was able to maintain that press, and that kind of helped us get up the pitch, whereas Richarlison was a bit tired. He kind of faltered, and that meant that we had to sit in a low block to mid block. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think? Sit back or...
Yeah, no, I think
Front
yeah,
footed,
that
front
no, I
footed.
think well, I think it'll be front footed because he'll have Danzo. All of this Mickey Van der Ven injury stuff. Again, maybe if it's taking precaution and it's not as serious, we'll find out tomorrow. But if it's not Mickey, then it'll probably be Danzo and Davies, and then Spence on the left because I imagine he's just not going to drop Poro, despite what I say. So
What do you think would suit us more? Do you think front footed is the way to go against Liverpool away from at Anfield, where we haven't won, obviously, for quite a while? Or do you think it's better to sit back in a low block and invite pressure on, and then try and hit there on a counter?
if listen, it's very hard as a Spurs fan to trust your team to be defensively astute. If we could frustrate them to the 60th minute mark, I personally would. It's not that I would sit back, but I would sit in a mid block. I'd sit more in a mid block so that we're still capable of being a bit aggressive, but not too overly aggressive. Get to the 60th mark where I think we can frustrate them. If we nick a goal, park the bus. Honestly, like you've got the lead already. Like park the bloody bus if you get the lead, because we don't win at that ground. I know people would be like, "Oh, you got to be positive and stuff like that." Just get the job done. Just do your job. So that's all I'm asking. Just do your job. That's all I'm asking for. Because really and truly, a low block for 90 minutes at Anfield, nah, bruv. With them fans there, nah, stress, immediate stress. Don't want.
Chris, what do you think, man? Low block, mid block, or high press?
I don't think Ange is his style, his vision of play is low blocking anybody. If he's going to block, he's going to mid, right? Because he wants to control the midfield, right? Then you've got space behind to correct whatever errors have been made in midfield, if that were the case. Plus, you've got the added attacking options as well. Whether he plays Tell on the right, I'd actually play Tell on the right, because if you play Johnson on the right, whoever's left back, and it's probably Simicas or whatever his name is, I can't speak Greek, or Hungarian or whatever it is, he's going to see Johnson as not a threat. So you're playing with 10 men, right? If you play Tell on the right, it's a threat because he's not known. Yeah, okay, you can see him on highlights, you can see him whatever, but he's going to give you something that Johnson doesn't do. Now, Johnson, and I've always said this, Johnson is very good, and I think Kish talked about this as well. I've always said that Johnson is not a 1v1 player. He hasn't got that quality. He can gain it, I suppose, but his attributes are into space, run into space. Exactly right. And the prototype goal that he would score was the goal that he scored against Coventry. When we were against the wall, that ball went straight through. I think it was Bentancur that paid it through, I think, or whatever it was. And he went on, and he's a great player behind that, behind the back line of the rivals, and he's great in space. Are Liverpool going to afford you that, that space? Possibly not, but they're more open. They play more open than Brentford do, right? They're an attacking team, so we're going to have space. Tell is left-footed and he's right-footed, and he can play down the centre. I think that he should play on the right if he starts. The other thing is that Kulusevski, for example, if he were to play on the right, and I don't like him playing on the right, I think he's a one-trick pony, left foot, and he can't cross to save his life. But his work rate in defence is good. So and I'm glad Ange gets paid to make these decisions, because I don't know what I would do. Because you could put Gray at 6 because he's intelligent, he's got that capability. You've got Sarr as well, and Bissouma to give a bit of flair. And I actually play Bissouma a bit, further on, further up, and have a double Sarr and Gray. If Danso's already going to go, going to start, you have Davies, which got experience. And Spence, obviously, I'm with you there, that he's got to play left back. Yes or yes. I wouldn't put Davies on the left and accommodate Gray and Danso, because that is too unbalanced, in my opinion. Okay, not because Gray isn't intelligent enough, but because he lacks the experience, in my opinion. And if we go on face value, what he said after the game, Davies basically coached me through, or walked me through the game against Brentford. Well, yeah, you're intelligent, but if that's true in what he says, he lacks experience. So you can't put Danso and an inexperienced 18-year-old at the back against Liverpool. You've got to put Davies there, right? And then Gray, possibly play him in midfield. There was a comment that you put up that he'd be benched. It's possible that Gray could be benched, but we don't know. I mean, that's a luxury that Ange has to play with as well, isn't it? I mean, it's not detrimental to have Gray on the bench, but it's not detrimental to have him on the in the starting 11 either. Depends on how you want to play. But I'd go low block. I'd go mid block more than low block, because I don't think that's the style and the vision that Ange has.
Yeah. Just before we finish, Marlon, I just wanted to ask one final question as well. It was going back to that whole window situation, and Lange talking about the reason why they did the late business was because actually in Europe it's the first time that it's been extended where they had to play a few games, meaning that players were uncertain of their future. The clubs were uncertain of their future because they had important games to play, so they didn't want players to go early, and so that was the reason why he didn't want them to go. Do you not think that's bullshit, or do you think there's an element of truth into it? And then also, do you think the reason why we've been heavily led with youth players is because Spurs are no longer an attractive place to come, and we've been forced to look at some of the youth players? And could you see Paratici coming back, or will it always be Lange in charge, being at the helm? Will he be the main man from now on? I know it was like a layered question, but
Paratici, Lange, I'm not too sure what will happen there. Speculations will just give you a headache. In terms of the recruitment, to be honest with you, this is nothing new for Spurs, especially over the last 15 years. You could go all the way back to like 2006, where we've bought predominantly young. I think people forget that we had Kyle Walker, Norton, Danny Rose all in at the same time, sent them all out on loan. We had Gareth Bale young, bought Modric when he was in his early 20s. Like, this is quite a typical Spurs model, especially underneath Enoch. What changed around probably 2014 to about 2018 is that we started to buy more senior players. Not all of them worked out, not all of them banged, but the ones that did, in your Dembele's and your Victor Wanyama before he got injured, those ones were really good purchases. I think we're taking a big risk with purchasing so many young or younger talent, and not necessarily marrying it up with one or two experienced players. I mean, the most experienced player we bought in the last 12 months is probably Solanke. And then before that would be Madison. I don't think that's enough, if I'm being brutally honest. I know Vicario is obviously around 26, but that's still young for a goalkeeper. It would be ideal if you were gonna go for a bit more experience to look around the 25 to 27 mark. Somebody that's been around, played at the highest level or played at a decent level, to at least come in and galvanize some of these players. Because to be honest with you, a lot of our older players, Son, Fraser Forster, I'm sorry, I just don't get the sense that when they're in the locker room and they're talking to these players, I'm sure these players look up to them and respect them, but I just don't get enough from them to believe that they put fear into these players. A lot of sports, when you look at it, some of the best captains and best people that have been in sports, it's not about galvanizing. It's not about putting a shoulder, like giving a player to cry on. Sometimes it's about telling them, buck up your ideas. We've got a job to do. You get paid to do this. Go out there and deliver what needs to be delivered. And it wasn't too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember what game it was. I think it was the Liverpool game, or maybe the game before that, where what was his name? Madison and a few of the players came out and said, we hope that the fans are proud of us. And I was like, proud of what? You've got like 12 defeats in the league. Like, we've got to have some shame here, people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know people talk about cup competitions, but cup competitions are additional competitions. If you took away all cup competitions, I know you can't now, but I'm just talking hypothetically. If you took away all competition, the only competition anyone will ever care about will be the league. And it's going to be, it's unacceptable for any team that's considered to be big or big enough, as Spurs is, to accept what we've had to endure this season. So to, you know, turn around and tell the fans on national TV that, you know, we're struggling out here, but we hope you're proud. Well, you can sod off, mate. You know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, the only way you can, in any way, shape, or form, make us proud is by going out there and salvaging what has been a horrid season up until this point. You know, there's things that can be done, luckily, in the second part of the season that can maybe turn things around and make fans a bit more uh, receptive to what's happened. But, you know, we're in February. We're in the first week of February, and Spurs have 13 defeats in 2025 with a £1 billion stadium. It's ludicrous.
Chris, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, the comment you just put out there, yeah, Lens weren't in Europe, so it could be BS. But I'm sure that he's not just talking about Danso, because, you know, Danso could have been got, you know, weeks ago, whatever it was. But I think that it's on the whole, and there is some, you know, validity to what he says, that you're in a limited market always in January, but seeing as the competition has been, you know, has gone on longer than normal, obviously with player, or, you know, obviously player availability and the players not knowing their future, as you said before, Ash, that has to play a part as well. It has to play a part, and the other way around, you know, outgoing players would have to look at that as well, for example. But you know, I don't know whether it's bullshit. I don't think it is. I think there is a, you know, element of truth there. And the second one was the reliance of youth. Was that? Am I correct in that?
Yeah, go on.
Listen, I think that it's a good way to go. Yeah, I agree with you as well that a bit more experience coming in would bolster the squad, would, you know, rest a lot of players that have been overplayed, would have, you know, that have caused a lot of injuries. And, you know, a lot of people debate it's the tactics, it's the training methods. No, listen, loads of ACLs are around the world. Loads of hamstring problems are happening. It's just the way the game's played. It's got nothing to do with Ange's methods, right? Because in other teams, ACLs are happening, hamstrings are happening. I don't think Ange's at their training ground, you know, screwing them over as well. I just think that it's just, you know, an element of the game, and UEFA have confirmed it, that because of positional play, the sprints, for example, are more explosive over shorter distances, and players are doing more mileage or more kilometers, whatever you want to call it, over you know, like longer games, because now games are not 90 minutes. They're 100 and whatever. All of this combined is not Ange's methods. This has been happening for a long time, and it's confirmed by UEFA. So, you know, the youth, I like the idea of youth because they're more malleable. You bring in a 28, 29-year-old, for example, set in their ways. They might be, you know, over-egoed, over-hyped, well, I'm not going to listen to this guy because, well, whatever, you know, payday, blah, blah, blah. But you bring in a Bergvall, you bring in a Gray, who comes from, as we know, a footballing family, etc. I think it's great. I think it's great that we are doing what other clubs do, bringing youth. The problem with that now is happenstance. It is a coincidence because of the injury crisis that we've had to rely on them. But, you know, I don't know. It's a lot of the injuries are just the way we train and play. As I said, when you train SSGs. Okay, well, you go to what Eric Dyer said, that Ange doesn't know how to train. Well, I just laugh at him because I think, have you been a professional footballer, mate? You played for England. You grew up in Portugal. You actually spoke Portuguese with Mourinho. We saw that, and you don't know what an SSG is. I mean, it's ridiculous to say that his training methods are what causes so many injuries. It may be a part of it, but it's definitely not the main reason why people are getting ACLs, here, there, and everywhere, or hamstrings, or muscular problems, knee problems. It's just the way the game has been played for so many years. And if people want to go against UEFA, if people want to go against whatever, it's up to them. It's their opinion, it's their prerogative. But it's been studied, and the facts are there. So going back to youth, good for the future. If they don't work out, you can sell them. But they're more malleable. They're more malleable than more experienced.
So I'm going to wrap it up there. However, and Chris, when you let people know where they can find you, there's one question to go with it as well. Obviously, we've signed 3 players in this window. However, we can only name 3 in the Europa League squad coming up, which I believe is tomorrow. I think we've got to name it. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Who are you leaving out, or are you taking all 3 and leaving Spence out? Would you bring Spence back in, or are you going to leave one of the new signings out? So just to answer this question, Alexander, the problem is that even though we had a smaller squad, we can only name 3. If we can't bring anyone else in, we can take somebody out, but we can only take. So if we took Forster out, we can name Spence, but we can only name 3 players as a maximum in the next round. Doesn't matter who they are, but we can only name an extra 3. So, let people know where they can find you and who you're leaving out. We don't even need an explanation.
You can find me on X under Yao Bruce Buzia, or NSO New Spurs Order on all social media. So that's TikTok, Instagram, and X. And might come as a surprise to most people, but I'd leave at Kinski.
Chris, let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, Met Football TV. I'm not sure if it's going to be interesting to anybody anymore, but
speak Spanish.
yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. I've been doing a bit of that as well. Yeah, free classes over at Met Football TV. I might actually start a language academy, a language school over there. Just just to entertain people and have people laugh at me. But Kinski was floated. The name Kinski was floated to be left out because the other positions are more important, and the goalkeeper under the goalkeeper position under Austin is more or less sound at the moment. It's not the best option, but it's definitely not the worst option. Who am I leaving out? I can choose anybody.
Well, you can only choose one of the 4 because they were the 4 that need to come in.
Of course, yeah. Well, unfortunately, we need Danso. We need Tell. I agree with you. We've got to leave Kinski out, but that's a big leave. That's a big name to leave out because he's not doing a bad job whatsoever, and he's extremely secure. So
I think we're lucky because Vicario, by the time the competition resumes, should be
back.
Well, I think what Chris is saying in terms of like corners, set pieces, he actually makes the defense or fans feel a lot safer.
No, he is
Vicario
far more secure. Yeah.
And then playing out from the back, Vicario has improved in my opinion. But then Kinski doing those direct balls into the front line, those clip balls into the fullbacks, it helps us to kind of progress up the pitch from playing out from the back, and that's the first phase of attack. So I kind of hear what Chris is saying, and then also you look at it. If he can't play in the cup competitions, then because there's not a lot of League Cup games left, is there? There's only like the final, like do you know what I mean? Semi-final tomorrow, and then the final, and then FA Cup. Yeah, we give him that, but then Vicario, we're going to say let's say Vicario basically got the league. So then, where does Kinski come into this? Do you know what I mean? Unless we're saying
I don't agree.
Rotate. You're saying Kinski rotate with
Vicario
in the league?
I'm saying rotate the goalkeeper in the sense of each week, but you can't.
I'm saying Kinski retains his position in the league right now. and because of how long Vicario has been out, he's the cup goalkeeper for the remainder of this season.
Oh,
I
so
would,
he's the main man,
yeah,
and Vicario's the cup man. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask, you and chat, whatever, what is going to happen when, like next season, when Vicario is at 100%, let's say, and Kinski is 100%. Who's going to be the main man? Because what you said, Ash, is you touched on what I was saying, is that aerial balls, he seems much more confident and much more calm than what we've seen of Vicario. Cleared balls, handled balls. Kinski has done a very good job so far. Vicario does create that, or did create that kind of question mark over if a floated ball comes over, what's going to happen here, right? Kinski doesn't produce that in me, at least. He doesn't make me feel insecure. So what's going to happen next season when both of them are at full pelt?
I think you start with Vicario next season. Only for elder statesman kind of talk. You kind of give him a chance to lose. He didn't really lose his shirt. He got injured. So
Yeah, true.
I'd say next season, finish the season how it is. Next season, he's the number one until essentially he loses his shirt.
So also say thanks to both of you for coming on. Been absolutely brilliant. Your pleasure as always. Chris, thank you again for coming on. Pleasure always when you're on. Ash,
Always.
quickly on this Kinski thing. I'm just to get our opinion on it. I'd leave out Spence still.
Would you? I thought so. I was waiting for a different take. Go on.
And the reason why I'd leave out Spence still is because you haven't got Regulon and you're bringing in Danso, right? Porro, as we've discussed on this panel, in the Premier League is going to get caught out a lot more than he does in Europe. So you've got the choice then now, because Spence has come in and done the job. You play Spence in the league, you play Porro in Europe, and the Kinski Vicario debate can go on, because if we get knocked out by Liverpool and Villa this week, you're stuck. You're pretty much stuck, because you're not, depending on who we get in the next round, you're then relying on, he ain't going to get no game time. Goalkeepers can't come in cold. They can't come in cold. So my thing is that, as you guys have said, there's going to be a problem next season. Let's find out who's going to be number one next season. Have them both for the Europa League squad. With Spence, I know he's been one of the best players over the last month. Don't get it twisted. I do agree with that, but he can go and play the Premier League games because, as we've said, for the last hour, he's more suited to the Premier League.
So are you then relying on Archie Gray to play fullback then?
Yes, I am. And I'm not, and you know what I feel about Archie Gray playing there. Unfortunately, Archie Gray can play there. He's played, look, we signed him as a right back from Leeds. Let it happen. If it comes to that situation, let it happen. But I would leave Spence out of it still.
I don't know.
Who are you playing at left back?
Archie Gray.
Archie Gray again.
Oh, Archie Gray at left back. Sorry, I didn't understand.
He'll be the cover for both.
Well, he's definitely better than Emerson Royale against Liverpool at left back.
Yeah. I know a lot of people won't agree with me, and they'll be like, "Nah, you got to leave Kinski out." But you do get yourself in a situation. At the end of the day, we're not going to know if we're going to be out of both cups in 2 days' time anyway. And Vicario does come back, and I just think because you then have that bit of you want to rotate them, because if we bring in Kinski, if we say Kinski's the league and Vicario is the cup, Vicario is not going to be the same goalkeeper if he's not playing regular. We saw that. He's not. That's the problem that we have.
It's a good point. It's valid. It's valid.
So we have an issue, but I would go with, look, we've signed Danso now. Obviously, he's going to take Dragusin's place in the squad anyway. And Archie Gray is the cover. He's going to have to be the cover in Europe. I think we are more likely to get away with it in Europe than we would in the league, because Premier League's a completely different animal. That's just me. But
you make a good point, Mon, and that's why we invite you on, mate. That's why we have you on this program.
We invite you on.
You've got a lot of savvy, mate. So thanks for. Whenever you're available, we'll call you once again. Okay.
And on that note, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, man. Tell a friend to tell a friend, man.
Eldon Ash, who are you leaving out?
No, I'm gonna. You know what? I'm looking at Austin. I'm looking at. Oof, you're right. That's tough.
You can only if there's four people you can bring out of the 4 people you can bring in who haven't been in the squad, and you've got to take out. So Forster looks like he's going to come out. So it leaves you 3 spaces then to fill.
Yeah. No, it's tough. It's tough.
Buckle up, we've got another hour. We've got another hour of program.
Yeah, that warm goalkeeper thing's a real deal breaker for me. I feel like rhythm is important. Vicario coming in cold, but I don't know. I'm still keep out Kingski because I'm actually deep in it now. It depends when Vicario comes back, but I'm gonna risk it for the biscuit and say, hopefully Vicario's ready sooner than we think, and he has a couple games before the Europa starts back in March. And if that's the case, then he will be ready for Europa. And then I'd leave out Kingski because I wanted to see that Jed Spence link up with. I want to see Jed Spence on the pitch. I really do.
But he deserves it as well. Don't you think he deserves it?
I don't want to see Jed Spence in Europe. I want to see him in the league. I think he's better as a right back in the league than he is in the. I trust Porro in Europe enough that I don't need Spence.
Yeah,
I know injuries have killed us this year, and that's the reason why we were looking.
I'm saying Spence left back. That's what I'm saying.
If we didn't have Forster for Galatasaray and them games there where he,
I think you're right though. I think Andrew's thinking like how you're thinking, and I think Spence gets left because he did mention something like funny post match. So they asked him about Spence, and he was like, he kind of gave like a dubious answer. So I think there might be legs to that.
Goalkeeper union, mate. That's where I'm at.
and so fans might be beefing. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know what you're saying.
It'll be a really big decision. But I'll understand it. I'd completely understand it if he left out because he won't leave Attel. That's just not happening. So it's going to be between Danso and Kingski. It's going to be one of them, and he can't. Danso at the moment is in a position where we ain't got nobody.
Yeah.
Unless he gets injured against Liverpool.
I don't.
Then
but the squad has to be named before then.
Yeah, I know. But then what do you do after that?
Yeah, I don't know if you can name a person. Can you rename him? Go back if he's injured? I don't even know.
I'd have to. I'm surprised you don't know that, Marlon. I'm surprised you don't know this stuff, man.
Do you know what? I'm surprised I don't know it either. Everything I've been researching the last couple of days with it, I'm surprised I didn't know that. But that's what, but Austin and Whiteman are guaranteed because they're club trained. They can't be dropped. They have to stay in. So Forster looks like he's going to be the one that comes out. It's just dependent on what the club want to do. Not sure. But Ash, let them know about tomorrow.
Yes, so we've got Rivals on tomorrow. Stefan said he will come on. Sorry.
Are them Arsenal fans going to be humble?
You laugh. Sorry, no, because obviously, Let's see. He said he will come on. So obviously Chinks will be there. He's probably watching now, but Chinks will be there. So we have 2 Arsenal fans, and I'm gonna have Toom will be back, so there will definitely be a Newcastle fan. Spec said he will come, so it should be.
It might be the reaction to the Carabao Cup game.
It might be a cool reaction, but I definitely will have a Liverpool fan there as well.
It's starting. I put it to start later than normal tomorrow because of the game.
Yeah, so Liverpool fans will be there. So we'll have the Liverpool versus Spurs rivalry for the Cup, for the preview, and then we're going to have the Newcastle and
Big Preach is going to be there.
Yeah, so Preach, go. Yeah, you know the story already, but
So cool.
It should be tasty. Should be all right.
We'll be back next Tuesday for another show. So make sure you tune in. Make sure you go and subscribe to these 2. Everything's in the description. Thank you to Kish as well and Orin for coming on. I know a lot of you don't like Orin's opinion, but he's here.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Jay as well. He was on earlier.
And Jay, yeah. But shout out to Jay as well. Jay, hopefully Jay's on tomorrow,
yeah. Jay. Well,
can we find Orin anywhere?
Here.
He's Mr. Spurs on X.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Spurs. Okay,
Mr. Spurs 9. I think he's on X.
I actually agree with like 500% with what he says. I agree with it all. So
Chris, I've lost a lot of respect.
And then I'm gonna tag
Is he-
you that. Yeah.
Is he-
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
Is he from Northern Ireland?
I think so.
Ask
Yeah,
him.
well,
Ask him. Ask him.
Yeah, I've never asked him actually. I know he's Irish, but I don't
So
know.
Mr. Spurs. Okay, I'll
Spurs
find him
9, I
because
think, yeah.
Mr.
Poor
Spurs.
lad.
Okay, that's cool.
He just
I'll
told the
find
whole YouTube where to find him. Poor lad. Anyway.
Man, he wants it. He loves it. You know he loves it. He loves it all.
Can we give out his address on YouTube now? No.
I'll give out his phone number.
Hey, love.
And just big up to Christian for this super chat as well. It's been an epic show. Like everybody, yours been killing me tonight. I knew he would. I couldn't even. I had to go on mute because I was laughing too much. killing me. But now, thank you to everyone that's been on. We're back next Tuesday. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for Rivals. You've got Young Scout videos coming out as well over the next 2 games as well. Watch out for them. Where are we Thursday, Ash?
Oh, we are doing a watch along.
We are doing the watch along for We Are Tottenham TV, so come over and tune in for that. We did the first leg and we promised with them we'll do the second. So yeah, we'll be on there. But as always, Levy out. See you next week.
See you next week, man. Peace. Love.
Right. Thank you.
Big up.